Leon's gaze turns to Sir Zarya, who is conjuring his fantasy territory. As he grips his sword, a powerful energy radiates from him, saturating the air. The orcs cry out in agony, only to collapse to the ground moments later. Leon steps forward, alerting Zarya that the orcs are advancing. At the sight of him, Zarya and his knights swiftly bow in reverence, acknowledging Leon as the first knight of the goddess Ariana. As he watches them kneel, Leon reflects on how knights, after drinking the holy water from the Holy Grail, awaken to their peak form. Having been an exceptional warrior since he became a knight of the Holy Grail at a young age, he now realizes that, under the king's gaze, he appears like an old man. This revelation strikes him. His current appearance signifies that he has reached his peak. Noting that his companion hasn't changed a bit, Leon orders him to get up and demands a full account of the situation. Zarya explains that they successfully obtained the sacred relic and were en route to the Empire's border when they were ambushed by orcs and the followers of the beast god. In response, a few knights stayed behind to defend their position, while the others continued transporting the relic, splitting into 5 groups to maintain their disguise. Curious, Leon inquires about the group possessing the real relic. After a lengthy pause, Zarya finally reveals that it belongs to the 5th group in the southwest, led by someone from her past. Meanwhile, in a different location, Zarya chuckles as she watches Daesung regain consciousness after a period of unconsciousness. Daesung breathes a sigh of relief upon seeing that the bear that attacked him is dead. Harry is also present, and it dawns on them that they have all been separated once more. Zarya is taken aback to find other knights present, never imagining anyone else would be bold enough to undertake this mission. Just then, a system window materializes, instructing them to assist the Grail Knight, Zarya of Twilight, in transporting the holy relic to the Lionheart borders. Observing their astonishment, Zarya chuckles and explains that they must be a bit out of the loop, having been isolated in the middle of nowhere. To confirm his identity as Zarya of Twilight, Daesung repeats the name, only to be met with a surprising response. Zarya informs him that this esteemed title will belong to Daesung in the future. For now, however, he is merely a knight on a mission. Zarya Bertham has not received a quest from the gods in a long time. For the past 10 years, he has roamed the world as a knight, starting his journey at the age of 15, and has spent an additional 15 years waiting for a divine call. He was an exceptional knight, not one blessed with superpowers capable of turning the tide of battle single-handedly, unlike many who received missions from the gods. Yet, it was his unwavering determination that earned him respect, even as others mocked him. One fateful night, a woman appeared in Zarya's dreams, urging him to end his suffering, return to the kingdom, and embrace his responsibilities. Yet Zarya refused to relent. Even as the world mocked him, he persevered. By the time he turned 100, he achieved the title of Grail Knight, becoming the oldest person ever to do so. Meanwhile, back with Leon, Zarya commanded the knights to raise their shields and prepare for battle. Without hesitation, the knights sprang into action, ready to follow his lead. Orcs and other monsters surged toward them, the battlefield erupting into chaos. The knights, shields raised, deftly evade the orcish onslaught. With swords flashing, they cut down wave after wave of foes, and in that moment Leon understands. Their collective combat prowess is on an entirely different level. They soon spot a boulder troll, and Leon instructs Suho and Jaehyuk to watch closely. What they're about to witness is the very goal they should aspire to achieve. With a swift signal, Leon rallies the knights, including Zarya, and they charge forward to confront the monster. Yet, Jaehyuk and Suho exchange worried glances, acutely aware of the danger posed by the narrow passage. Disregarding the looming danger, Zarya gallops forward alongside the other knights, spear in hand. His horse soars over the knights wielding shields, leaving Suho and Jaehyuk speechless, their mouths agape in astonishment. As Zarya channels the power of the dear holy flame's skill, he readies his sword against the foes ahead. However, Leon cautions Suho and Jaehyuk to temper their excitement. The enemy has yet to unleash their full strength. Meanwhile, the system alerts them to a bonus mission: defend Sir Zarya's forces until the very end. Upon reading this, Leon resolves to stay and assist Sir Zarya, confident that the stallion will pursue the true transportation squad. This time, he intends to observe the honorable Grail Knight until the very end. Meanwhile, following their instructions, Suho and Jaehyuk sift through the orc corpses, but their search yields no mana stones. This revelation leads Leon to realize that this quest is impartial. He doesn't detect the sinister undertones that typically accompany other missions. However, he suspects there might be a way to manipulate the quest to his advantage. With this thought in mind, Leon commands his knights to search for any students who might be nearby. Just as he prepares to say more, he suddenly senses a spear hurtling toward him. In an instant, he snatches the spear from the air and, fueled by anger, shatters it in his grip. Frustration etches his face as he glares at the orc for daring to use a ranged weapon against him. With a sneer, Leon taunts the creature, calling it a repulsive, inferior beast. Consumed by rage, he commands Zarya to bring him the orc's head, no matter the cost. Zarya faced the orcs who had dared to mock the king, a surge of pride swelling within him at the thought of being the one to slay the beast that insulted their ruler. The orcs sneered down at him, laughter spilling from its lips, but it barely had time to register the threat before Zarya vanished from sight. In an instant, he reappeared behind the creature, striking with precision. With a swift and powerful swing of his staff, he landed a crushing blow to the orc's head. The force of the blow sends the orc hurtling to the ground, crashing into the rubble with a thunderous impact. The sheer power is almost surreal to the beast, yet Zarya remains unwavering, her voice cutting through the chaos, as she demands to know how it dared to invade the sacred territory of the heavens, a realm where only the king should rule. Unfazed, the orc snarls back, threatening Zarya for confronting it alone, boasting that it has brought an entire army with it. Despite the chaos, Zarya remains unfazed, his confidence unwavering in the face of the approaching army of refuse. A sly smile spreads across his face as an unusual energy begins to envelop the surroundings. Before anyone can fully comprehend the situation, Zarya calls out to the goddess of dreams and death, beseeching her to deliver judgment upon the unfaithful. Behind him, a goddess materializes, channeling the same energy into her hand. In an instant, deep cuts mar the orcs' bodies. Meanwhile, with the team carrying the genuine relic, Zarya cautions Daesung to remain vigilant. Most of the creatures that stir at night are indeed monsters. A sense of urgency fills the air, prompting Zarya to suggest they seek refuge in a nearby cave for safety. With a heavy box of relics resting on his shoulders, Zarya strides forward, sweat beads on Stella's forehead. She can't bear the thought of someone noble like him doing such labor. Yet Zarya reassures her, "I'm just a mission knight for now." Confused by his words, they continue on until they finally reach the cave. Once inside, Zarya channels divine energy, crafting a plant-like barrier at the entrance to ensure their safety. After setting up camp, Stella hesitantly asks if it's all right for him to keep an eye on the relic box for a while. His response catches her off guard. Zarya tells her to take charge, reminding her that a kingdom knight holds more authority than a mission knight. This revelation leaves everyone puzzled, as they struggle to understand the connection between Zarya's past and present. Noticing their confusion, Zarya reveals the truth. The goddess has rewarded him. After countless efforts, Pu granted him a remarkable power when he became a Grail Knight, the ability to summon a clone of his past self into existence. The Zarya they see before them is 85 years old, the very age at which he received his divine quest. He cautions them not to expect any more power from him, as he pales in comparison to the Grail Knight. Suddenly, a loud, terrifying roar echoes through the air. Everyone jolts to attention. Zarya, who had been smiling just moments before, now wears a serious expression. She commands everyone to remain silent. The danger is drawing near. Daesung and Hari seize their weapons, steeling themselves for battle as the noise from above intensifies. Without warning, the ceiling gives way. Zarya's voice cuts through the chaos, urging everyone to get out of the way. In the blink of an eye, a demon subordinate crashes down from above, ready to unleash havoc. To vanquish the monster, Zarya plunges his sword deep into its gaping maw, but in retaliation, the beast rakes its claws across his back, a dangerous attack as its poison is deadly. Stella rushes to assist him, but he commands her to retreat, urging everyone to escape as swiftly as they can. Upon hearing the command, Hari rushes toward Daesung, calling out his name. Her heart sinks as she sees the deep, poisonous wound on his arm, and she watches in horror as he struggles to rise. Without hesitation, she quickly bandages his arm, her hands steady despite the chaos around them. Daesung, filled with regret, apologizes for letting her down, but Hari brushes aside his words, her focus solely on his well-being. All she can think about is the poison coursing through his wound. Guilt weighs heavily on her for not intervening sooner. "Wait here," she tells Daesung, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. Gripping her sword tightly, she strides towards Zarya, who is still locked in battle with the monster. Zarya glances back, alarm flashing in his eyes. "Stay back, it's too dangerous," he shouts, but he's taken aback as she advances, a fierce energy radiating from her sword. Flashbacks flood Hari's mind, transporting her back to a past visit to the gate. She remembers Leon, brimming with confidence, declaring that she had been chosen by the divinity of war and fire, a gift she should never take lightly. With a flick of his wrist, he conjured a flame in his hand, explaining that divine fire flows like a sea current, ready to move at her command. Recalling the moment, Hari swings her sword, channeling both water and fire energy into her strike. With a powerful release, she delivers a devastating blow to the giant monster. Zarya watches in disbelief, unable to comprehend the sheer force of the attack. After the creature falls, Zarya hurriedly concocts the antidote. But there's a catch: it's only enough for one person. The Empire's Dark Mage's Chimera, unfortunately, was caught in the crossfire and burned by Hari during the battle. Once the antidote is prepared, Dae-sung quickly takes it, while Zarya works to better conceal their entrance, determined to evade any pursuit, no matter how sharp the monster's sense of smell. However, as she finishes, Zarya suddenly collapses, the lingering effects of the poison from her own injury overwhelming her. Everyone gathers around him, eager to help, but in a faint voice, Zarya reassures them. Even if he dies, he believes that his past self will come to their aid. His clone has been blessed by the Lady of Death, who even granted it a special gift. As Zarya takes his final breath, he instructs them to treat his other self as just another consumable item, a means to secure the relic for the King of the Lion Heart. As he breathes his last, he watches the Lady of Death consume his soul. Meanwhile, the second version of Zarya wraps up his battle with the orcs. Leon commends his efficiency, recognizing that Zarya had attempted to lure their leader into a trap, but it had failed. The orcs, surprisingly patient, remain unfazed by the provocation, hinting that their leader possesses a remarkable charisma that keeps them in check. Leon's mind races with thoughts of the possibility of an orc champion. These rare figures chosen by the orc god have the power to unite their kind and ignite devastating wars. While it may be too soon to draw conclusions, Leon can't shake the feeling that he might be facing an orc chief. Later, in a private moment, Zarya and Leon sit down to talk. With a heavy heart, Leon shares everything that has transpired. Zarya's fists tighten as the weight of his revelation sinks in. He had already died and ascended to heaven. His hands tremble as he grapples with the realization that Leon had battled the forces of evil alone for 2 centuries. Overwhelmed with guilt, Zarya pleads with Leon not to forgive him for his disloyalty, but Leon, with a steady gaze, urges him not to apologize. In that moment, Zarya deduces that if he fell to an orc, the formidable chief must be nearby. Leon acknowledges that the champion selected by the orc god is indeed on this battlefield, and his presence serves a purpose beyond mere conquest. It's part of an experiment, with the spoils being a secondary concern. However, Leon has now adopted a new resolve: to remain by his friend's side until the very end. Later that night, in the orc camp, where the orcs lie peacefully asleep on the ground, Leon quietly kindles a fire. Orcs live much like humans, indulging in food, drink, and sleep, which makes them susceptible to nighttime ambushes. From his perch atop the cliff, Leon gazes down at the burning camp, a smirk creeping across his face as he watches them perish. Behind him, Zarya takes a deep breath, ready to share everything he knows. He believes that with the king's arrival, the course of history and his death has shifted dramatically. If this gate can truly recreate the kingdom of that time perfectly, then surely someone capable of matching the power of the Lionheart King, the strongest Grail, will emerge. A few days later, a man in the orc camp screams in frustration, his face flushed with anger as he grapples with a relentless onslaught from their opponents, which has persisted for 3 days without pause. Despite having 10,000 orcs at their disposal, they find themselves under constant attack, day and night. What frustrates him the most is that only 2 individuals, Zarya and Leon, are responsible for slaying thousands of orcs. As he gathers his subordinates to discuss their next move, an iron bear, once the mightiest of all the orcs, suddenly crashes into their tent, sliced and lifeless. At that moment, the champion of Helken strides into the tent, the very man who had slain the Iron Bear. In a fit of rage, he seizes the man by the throat, his fury boiling over because the opening was meant to take place yesterday. The man struggles against the grip, but he quickly realizes the futility of his efforts. This champion may be even stronger than a Grail Knight, having faced them in battle during his youth. The champion of Helken slams him to the ground, commanding him to ready the forces for an assault on the Grail Knights tomorrow. Both the champion of Helken and the skunk's formidable warrior will lead the charge. As the champion strides out of the tent, the man contemplates the odds. With 2 champions of the orc gods on their side, victory might just be within reach. Suddenly, a deafening explosion shatters the air. As the man and the other beasts of Helken step outside, they notice a colossal spear planted firmly in the ground, a letter affixed to its shaft. This letter, originating from the Lionheart Kingdom, has been circulated annually. Within its folds lies a challenge, a duel. The champion of Helken, sensing an opportunity, urges the man to accept the challenge, convinced that it could be the key to defeating the formidable Grail Knight. Meanwhile, in a different location, the knights express their gratitude to Beatrice and her subordinates for vanquishing the monster just in the nick of time. One of the female knights, her brow furrowed with concern, inquires about the whereabouts of Suho and Jae-Huk. Beatrice reassures her, explaining that their mission was to assist Sir Zarya and the main squad. If the king isn't with them, it likely means he's with another transport team. Beatrice reassures them not to worry about their friends. She has cast a tracking spell on everyone, ensuring they'll reunite soon. While she believes Suho and Jae-Huk are with the king, she senses that Daesung and Hari are with a different squad. However, Sir Spinny is beyond her range, which leaves her feeling uneasy. Meanwhile, Spinny drifts through the vastness of space, measuring the pull of gravity as he observes the launch of a satellite from the gate. The device, designed to collect only small fragments of information, reveals what appears to be a planet. However, upon closer inspection, it's merely deep valleys and the stark line marking an empire's border. Just then, the device detects a powerful signal. A knight from the Lionheart Kingdom strides forward, locking eyes with Spinny, a confrontation he never anticipated. With a swift motion, the knight removes his helmet, his expression fierce as he commands Spinny to leave at once. In the distance, Leon's army stands resolute, facing a formidable horde of orcs and other monstrous creatures. The air is thick with tension as the orcs march forward, their roars echoing ominously across the battlefield. Jae-Huk, sensing the mounting tension, realizes that the orcs will soon launch their attack. However, Leon reassures him, explaining that this confrontation is essential for assessing their enemy's strength and uncovering the truth behind their motives. If Leon and his team can maintain their position, it will ease the path for the group transporting the relic. Jae-Huk, haunted by memories of past failures in relic transport, expresses his worries. Yet, Leon remains steadfast, confident that with Beatrice and Spinny on their side, they can manage whatever comes their way. With Leon's approval, Zarya steps forward to take the lead. However, before she can make her move, the orcs erupt into a cacophony of shouts, their senses heightened as they realize their Helkin is watching. Displeasure washes over everyone, including Leon, as they cast disapproving glances at the raucous orcs. Just then, Helkin's champion, Balbazar, strides onto the battlefield, his arrogance palpable as he proclaims himself unbeatable and challenges anyone to face him. Leon smirks, teasing Balbazar for being nothing more than a frog in a well. With a commanding tone, he orders Zarya to bring him the beast's head. Without hesitation, Zarya draws his sword and steps forward, declaring that Balbazar will meet his end here. Dismissing Zarya's bravado, Balbazar strikes first, but Zarya deftly dodges the attack, returning the taunt with a confident smirk. With unwavering confidence, Balbazar delivers a devastating blow with his axe, cleaving Zarya in two. He raises his weapon in triumph, the knights around him frozen in disbelief. But in a shocking twist, Zarya's body begins to transform, emanating a surge of powerful energy. A sly smirk spreads across Zarya's face as he taunts Balbazar, declaring him a beast unworthy of comparison to humans. Harnessing his divine skill, fantasy domain, Zarya conjures an illusion that tricks Balbazar into believing he has emerged victorious. As Zarya closes the distance, he readies his aura of execution, poised to deliver a decisive blow. But before he can strike, Balbazar seizes the blade of Zarya's sword, halting the attack. Overwhelmed by envy at the divine power he recognizes, Balbazar retaliates swiftly, swinging his massive axe and sending Zarya crashing to the ground. In the midst of the chaos, Zarya feels the surge of Helkin's power coursing through him. Despite his injuries, Zarya manages to land on his feet, gripping the spot where he was wounded. Summoning every ounce of energy, he charges at Balbazar. They trade blow after blow, each determined to emerge victorious. But Zarya finds it increasingly difficult to keep pace, absorbing more hits. Balbazar, too, endures some damage, but with a swift motion, he seizes Zarya by the collar and throws him to the ground. Gritting his teeth, Zarya watches as the axe swings toward his head. In that fleeting moment, Balbazar slams his axe into the ground, convinced Zarya is finished. Leon stands by, a smirk on his face, fully aware that defeating Zarya is no simple task. Meanwhile, Zarya rises, a wave of shame washing over him. He had dreamed of dedicating this victory to the king, but now he feels he's falling woefully short. Overwhelmed by pain, he secures his hand to the hilt of his sword, adopts a fighting stance, and charges at the beast. Balbazar remains calm, patiently awaiting Zarya's approach. As Zarya closes the distance, Balbazar swings his axe, slicing into Zarya's shoulder and taunting him for being a feeble human. Some time ago, before the orc subjugation, Leon, a war knight, stood among his fellow knights and inquired about Zarya's name. As Zarya introduced himself, Leon's eyes widened in recognition. He knew Zarya had served as a royal knight for an impressive 50 years. With a sense of pride, Leon recounted his recent triumph over the orc champion. To Leon's surprise, Zarya eagerly agreed to join him, requesting the king to assign him the lowest position available. He sought neither honor nor glory. All he wanted was to preserve his way of life. Back in the present, Zarya, haunted by memories of Leon's approach, coughs painfully, every part of his body aching. Balbazar, convinced that Zarya has surrendered, raises his axe for the final blow, but he halts abruptly when he sees Zarya gripping the weapon with unwavering determination. Flashbacks of Leon extending his hand and calling Zarya a loyal warrior flood his mind. Fueled by a surge of energy, Zarya swings his sword, praying to the great lady who commands the end of all things for her blessing. In an instant, he pierces Balbazar's heart with the death-resistant skill of great divine law. Before Balbazar can comprehend the source of Zarya's newfound power, he collapses, lifeless. A minute of silence blankets the battlefield before Zarya raises his sword, withdrawing it from Balbazar's lifeless body, a clear signal of victory. Instantly, chaos erupts around them as Leon's forces erupt in celebration, while the orc army stands disheartened by Balbazar's defeat. But the battle is far from over. Maghar, the champion of the sorcerer god Gokrok, steps forward, his eyes locked on Zarya, ready to issue a challenge. Despite losing a significant amount of blood, Zarya resolves to continue fighting for the king. As he takes a step forward, he stumbles, but Leon is there to catch him. "You're fighting so bravely," Leon praises, his voice steady. He encourages Zarya to rest, promising to watch over him in his final moments and bless his sacrifice. With determination, Leon steps forward, facing the crowd, and reveals all his relics. A golden light radiates from his body, and in an instant, the spirit of a colossal lion materializes behind him, flames dancing around them. Meanwhile, Spina soars through the vastness of space, gazing down at the planet as he senses unusual activity. An uneasy alliance begins to take shape between the Empire and the Lionheart Kingdom. The squad tasked with transporting the sacred relics is proceeding as planned, despite the grim reality that two other teams have already been eliminated. The members of the Pantheon Guild remain unharmed, even as the ranks of orcs and heathens swell ominously. Spina senses something amiss and swiftly detaches from the shuttle. Moments later, a deafening explosion rocks the area, obliterating the shuttle in a fiery blast. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, Leon carves through his enemies with relentless fury, leaving nothing but destruction in his wake. He turns to Zarya, revealing that he possesses a grail and, if necessary, will follow him to the ends of the earth. Zarya collapses, urging Leon not to waste his time. Yet, Leon implores him to accept the ascension ritual. Zarya begs him to conserve his divine powers, but Leon reassures him that the orcs and heathens will retreat. He promises that he won't have to fight again, unless it's to drive away the last remaining foes. Exhausted, Zarya looks at Leon, too weary to protest. Kneeling before him, Leon is enveloped in a powerful energy as he begins the ceremony. With deep respect, he urges Zarya to offer a prayer to the divinity he reveres. Zarya clasps his hands together and begins to pray, envisioning the spirit of the goddess before him. As Leon takes his final breaths, Zarya fervently prays for the expansion of his king's territory and for the alleviation of his burdens. As Leon places his hand gently on Zarya's shoulder, he whispers a prayer to the goddess, wishing that Zarya may enjoy wine in her banquet halls, and that his name will be etched in memory forever. He promises that they will reunite in the divine banquet hall of the gods. With a heavy heart, Leon bids farewell, and in an instant, Zarya vanishes, leaving his old friend standing alone. Meanwhile, another mystery begins to unravel. The chief of the orcs' subordinates kneels before his leader, apologizing for their failure to vanquish the enemy. Yet, the orc chief, seated upon his throne, contemplates his next move. If fate wills it, he declares, "I shall confront the Holy Grail tonight." In the depths of the forest, Zarya's clone peeks out from behind a tree, urging Hari and the squad to advance. There are no signs of monsters. She reassures them, signaling that it's safe to move forward. Hari gazes at Zarya with a mix of curiosity and hesitation, inquiring if he recalls anything from before, specifically the memories of the other clone who had been with them. Zarya responds thoughtfully, explaining that it feels as though he has inherited the original's memories. However, he sadly admits that he has no recollection of their squad. He emphasizes that, for now, he is simply a mission knight of 87, a time when the king was both a Grail Knight and a War Knight. Hari's curiosity deepens, and he presses Zarya for more details, inquiring if she knew the king during his childhood. Stella, equally intrigued, leans in, eager to hear tales of the king's younger days. With a chuckle, Zarya recalls how Leon made quite an impression back then, being the youngest Grail Knight in history. Zarya elaborates that Leon became a mission knight at just 16, a position typically reserved for seasoned knights of the kingdom dedicated to charitable endeavors. However, as a member of the prestigious Duke Draganya household, he may have bypassed some traditional steps due to his elevated status. Regardless, he excelled in his role. Leon single-handedly vanquished an entire village of orcs and thwarted a group of heathens mid-ritual. His adventures became legendary, celebrated as tales of bravery and honor, with even pets and singers recounting his exploits. At the age of 20, the goddess of light and justice chose him as her champion. By 27, he had made history as the youngest war knight and Grail Knight ever. Zarya is convinced that no one will ever match Leon's extraordinary talent again. He advises Hari to stay close to Leon, believing she will learn a great deal from him. After igniting a controlled fire in a secluded part of the deep forest, everyone drifts off to sleep. Everyone except Daesung, who continues to practice by swinging his sword through the air. Suddenly, he hears a voice remarking on his technique, calling it a kingdom sword style. It's Zarya who has awakened, revealing that at his age, he doesn't need much sleep. Daesung had expected to stand guard, but instead found himself in the midst of training. When Zarya offered to assist him, it felt like a tremendous honor. They faced each other, both adopting their fighting stances. "Why don't you focus on dodging while I attack?" Zarya suggested, a confident glint in his eye. As soon as Daesung nodded in agreement, he caught sight of a swift strike aimed directly at him. Reacting quickly, he attempted to evade the incoming blow. Zarya instructs him to keep both hands above his belly button. The sword, she explains, is not merely a weapon to swing. It's the quickest form of defense one can wield. Daesung is clearly putting in every effort to counterattack, but Zarya's swordsmanship is so swift and precise, it resembles a finely tuned machine, making it nearly impossible for him to land a hit. Zarya unleashes a flurry of rapid strikes, and with a decisive final blow, he sends Daesung's sword flying from his grasp, halting his blade just inches from Daesung's throat. Disappointed yet introspective, Daesung concedes that losing to Zarya only fuels his determination. He acknowledges the skill and speed of his opponent, expressing how much it inspires him. Taking a seat beside Zarya, Daesung curiously asks how he measures up against Hari. Zarya reveals that Hari possesses immense power and can improve at an astonishing rate. As Daesung hears this, self-doubt creeps in, making him feel inadequate and as though he will never measure up. This reaction strikes a chord with Zarya, reminding him of his own past. Back then, everyone around him urged him to give up, yet he persevered, knowing that the opinions of others hold no weight when it comes to striving for greatness. He advises Daesung to hold on to hope and embrace courage, reminding him that these qualities are meant to be nurtured and expressed. The following morning, they arrive at the Empire's castle. Zarya understands that once they pass through its gates, they will be on a direct path to the kingdom's borders. This realization dawns on Daesung. The Lionheart Kingdom and the Empire share a border. He can't help but wonder why their mission isn't over yet, especially now that they've arrived in the Empire. Just then, the castle guards command them to halt. However, Hari steps forward with confidence, asserting that they are there to transport the relic and that there should be a record of their passage. Suddenly, they are greeted by voices welcoming them. The speakers are none other than the head of the Magic School of Light, the commander of the Imperial Guards Division, Sir Bolthert, and the enigmatic Heavens Observer, Starduth. With a sinister smile, Ser Bolfard inquires about the presence of the members of the 13 electorates, quickly realizing that it's not Zarya before him, but rather her clone. Suddenly, orcs begin to swarm around them. Out of nowhere, Bolfart unleashes a lightning bolt aimed at Zarya, all while welcoming him and bidding him farewell. Hari rushes towards Zarya, who lies face down in the dirt, panic etched across the faces of their squad. Meanwhile, Bolfart remains unfazed, confident that the fallen figure is merely a clone, not the true Grail Knight. He challenges the remaining squad, taunting them about their courage to fight. In response to his arrogance, Stella unleashes a fierce wave of flames aimed at him. However, the old man counters with a sinister magical array, effortlessly unraveling her divine law with his own magic. As the head of her prestigious magic school, he's well versed in countering divine laws and boldly declares hers to be weak. Stella's face flushes with embarrassment as she realizes they've been studying the miracles of the divinities, which she considers an outright insult to the gods. Wolfheart scoffs at them, labeling them fools for clinging to outdated traditions regarding divinity. Daesung then interjects, asserting that the Empire has been allied with the orcs from the very beginning, and that the orcs themselves are mere relics of a bygone era. Wolfheart laughs maniacally, convinced that the relic will grant him the power to analyze the gods and propel his ambitions even further. Just as he prepares to make his move, an image materializes in the sky, emerging from the shadows. It's Beatrice, enveloped in divine energy. She senses the overwhelming magical pressure from his spell, but steadies herself, drawing upon a double recovery of mental fortitude to fortify her resolve. Wolfheart holds the magic circle steady, dismissing her power as vulgar, while radiating an alluring, seductive magic. Beatrice casually boasts about being born with her extraordinary powers, prompting Wolfheart to feign indifference. Yet, beneath his nonchalant exterior, he grapples with the unfairness of her effortless possession of such corrupt strength. Meanwhile, the short old man watches in awe, captivated by Beatrice's abilities, while Daesung and Stella exchange puzzled glances, still trying to grasp who she truly is. Wolfheart threatens her, demanding she appear before them, and unleashes a relentless barrage of powerful magic attacks aimed at her destruction. Yet, Beatrice stands unfazed, summoning a hexagonal shield to deflect the onslaught. Just as she steadies herself, she senses an additional threat looming behind. Her Wolfheart is channeling his Lamentar's lightning skill, ready to strike. The old men laugh boisterously, convinced that she has been defeated. Yet, against all odds, Beatrice endures the attack. Her eyes blaze with fury, a testament to her unwavering resolve to eliminate these grotesque foes. A surge of mana envelops her, and in a heartbeat, she unleashes the Death Eye spell. The magic circle morphs into a massive eye, unleashing a barrage of magic projectiles in every direction, siphoning away every trace of mana from the surroundings. In response, Wolfheart quickly raises his shield, bracing himself for the onslaught. Beatrice scoffs, dismissing the notion that it could ever rival the king's power. Although she recognizes that magic here is no different from what she's known, she remains baffled by its reckless use. As she sustains the Death Eye spell, she remarks that they are too fixated on its immediate effects, overlooking its true potential. In an instant, she deftly siphons the magic from the short old man. Meanwhile, Zarya awakens at the Empire's guard post, a chilling realization dawning upon him. The Empire has betrayed them. Suddenly, Hari, Stella, and Daesung hear Zarya's voice echoing in their minds, a result of Beatrice's magic. Zarya urgently instructs them to call for reinforcements, sensing an unsettling power emanating from the enemy. He warns that if the situation continues to escalate, it will only lead to greater peril. In a different setting, Spinny plummets to the ground, his body severely damaged. As he struggles to regain his composure, he announces a critical system error and urgently calls for repairs. Meanwhile, the Knight of the Lionheart seizes him, scrutinizing his form with a fierce glare. "Why can't I sense any divine power from you?" he demands, frustration evident in his voice. Sir Zarya, sensing the urgency of the situation, commands his comrades to evacuate the valley immediately and request reinforcements. Time is of the essence. The Empire's soldiers are closing in fast. They all mount their horses, desperate to escape, but the Empire's soldiers arrive just in time. One soldier shouts for them to halt. Without warning, he lunges at Hari Hevo, accusing him of being tied to the demon god's advent and the Manhwa of merciless destruction. They caution Lord Stella to remain vigilant and safeguard the holy relic while engaging the enemy. However, Hari Hevo unleashes the divine law, invoking the divine sword descent to strike at the Empire. This formidable skill can cleave even high-ranking demons with a single blow. From Sir Zari's viewpoint, the Empire stands little chance against the divine sword, revealing that this opponent is far more formidable than anticipated. In response, the Empire dismisses Sir Zarya as nothing more than a feeble imitation of his former self, a time before he had ascended to the rank of Grail Knight. They arrogantly assert that Zarya is merely attempting to thwart him. Their taunts suggest that if Zarya truly wishes to defeat him, he must first prove himself worthy. This arrogance sparks a question in Zarya's mind. Since when did the Empire earn the right to speak on the matter of Grail Knights? Hari Hevo addresses the valiant Knights of Lionheart, urging them to listen closely. This is a command from Stella Vermilion. She instructs them to stand and ready their swords, for today may very well be their last. The Empire, seething with anger, denounces them as mere animals who have forsaken their free will, declaring them to be even lower than that. Suddenly, Stella collapses to the ground, and it feels like the end for the Empire. Yet, Sir Spinny refuses to lose hope. His determination to defeat the Empire remains unwavering. However, they remind him that his current form is insufficient for the task at hand. Sir Spinny can't help but question how the goddess could choose someone he perceives as so inferior to be her knight. The Empire then taunts him, asking what he can possibly do now. Sir Spinner declares that those who dedicate themselves to fulfilling the quests bestowed by the gods lead lives akin to beautiful flowers, blossoming from their unwavering faith. Their radiant honor has always been his dream and aspiration. With determination, he draws his swords and aims them at the Lady of all things, the one who governs the afterlife and its sinners. She is the guide for mortals in their darkest moments, and legends say that facing her is a futile endeavor, a divine message urging one to surrender. This knight was no stranger to the impossible. In every mission, he sought neither approval nor validation. He simply refused to accept that something couldn't be achieved just because it seemed unattainable. Time and again, he turned the impossible into reality, even conquering death itself. The goddess of death, once gazing upon him with a hint of admiration, urged him to embrace the challenge of the impossible. Meanwhile, Stella regains her senses, fighting against the encroaching shadows of death. The Empire, sensing impending defeat at the hands of a mere knight-errant, begins to question whether their transformation into demons has truly failed. One of the team members reassures them, saying it's not too late. They estimate that they'll need at least half a day to reach the Lionheart borders, giving them a chance to track their elusive foe. The Empire reluctantly agrees, fully aware that they must retrieve the relic at any cost. Meanwhile, Stella rises to her feet, but the Empire swiftly orders their team to eliminate her, declaring that no one will be spared. Just then, a meteor streaks across the sky, taking the form of Volcanus, leaving everyone in stunned silence. With a fierce intensity, he declares to the Empire that he will reduce them to ashes, the only way he believes he can atone for his own death. The Empire concedes to Volcanus that it is indeed arrogant. However, Volcanus challenges them, questioning whether they truly grasp the reason they can call themselves an empire. It's because we allowed it, he asserts. You were permitted to arrogantly declare your independence, and we tolerated your unnecessary territorial expansion. The Empire, overwhelmed by the sheer scale of it all, the power, the speed, the seemingly endless mana, believes it has surpassed the limits of human capability. The Empire craves power, willing to face any consequences that come with it. Volcanus is taken aback by the Empire's overwhelming sense of omnipotence, convinced they have no idea what it truly means to have everything handed to them simply by wishing for it. The flames of enlightenment flicker ever brighter. Meanwhile, Sir Zarya revels in the Empire's downfall, even expressing his gratitude for their timely arrival. As Leon prepares to bid farewell to an old friend, he turns to Stella and asks if he can join the fight. She readily agrees, stating that she has no desire to monopolize the glory and honor. However, Sir Zarya, witnessing their camaraderie, erupts with fury, eager to put an end to them both on the spot. With a scornful glare, Zarya demands to know if someone has summoned a meteor. Leon, undeterred, insists that their battle has nothing to do with such cosmic forces, as Volcanus shows no mercy when it comes to evil. Zarya questions his presence, noting that this is a time of divine punishment. The flames of war are upon them. Just then, Volcanus arrives, greeting the owner of the Lionheart. Beatrice interjects, reminding them that they must gather everyone before the gate closes. Though he has much to discuss with Volcanus, the urgency of the situation weighs heavily on him. He turns to Volcanus and asks if he can provide something that symbolizes his essence. Volcanus hands Leon a dagger before departing, leaving Leon with the startling realization that Volcanus is not in the god's paradise. He is still very much alive. Harry beams with joy at the sight of His Majesty's return and inquires about his well-being. One of the group presents the holy relic to Leon, who expresses his gratitude for everyone's hard work. As he opens the relic box, a sense of anticipation fills the air at last. The final relic is now in their possession. He then leads everyone out. Meanwhile, at the Naju Plains Pantheon Guild, Park Sujin steps out of her car, puzzled by the urgency of the summons. It seems to her that the Pantheon Guild has transformed into a tourist attraction, and who could possibly resist the allure of such an extraordinary item? As she makes her way forward, she encounters Yaga Spinne. The system swiftly recognizes her facial ID, identifying her as Park Sujin, the senior manager and evaluator of the Hunter Association, who holds all the data on its members. While the system contacts His Majesty, she is instructed to wait inside. Her gaze drifts to a banner advertising the Hammer Challenge. The thought of participating crosses her mind, but the hefty fee of 5 million won gives her pause, quite a steep price to pay for a swing at glory. They used to adjust prices according to tax brackets, and since Sujin falls into the second class, her fee is only 500,000 won. She's thrilled to see such a significant discount, but she can't help but wonder how the machine determined her tax bracket. In reality, it was just a lucky guess, completely random. Just then, Assistant Manager Han approaches her with a warm smile and asks how she's been lately. As Sujin prepares to evaluate an item, she turns to Manager Han for guidance. He leads her through the halls to Sir Spin's room. Upon entering, Sir Spin greets her with curiosity, asking if she's from the association. "I'm Park Sujin," she replies, introducing herself confidently. Sir Spin then calls for Hari, instructing her to bring the artifacts. Moments later, Hari appears, carrying the items, which strikes Sujin as rather unusual. First, Sujin examines the formidable axe of an orc champion before shifting her attention to Volcanus's ritual dagger, a legendary artifact. Finally, Hari directs her gaze to an epic item, the sheath of Richard Lionheart. Just as she takes in its grandeur, the sheath begins to stir on its own. Sir Spinny recites the words of the founding king of Lionheart, a message meant for his descendants. The king spoke of enduring suffering and reaching for the stars, urging them to act with bravery and uphold justice, even if the heavens themselves were to crumble. With a heavy heart, Sir Spinny then requests that everyone leave him in solitude for a while. In an instant, he senses a surge of power coursing through him. With newfound confidence, he introduces himself as Leon Dragania Lionheart, the 15th king of the Lionheart dynasty and the rightful heir to its legacy. As the agent of God, he asserts his claim to wield the sacred relic, declaring that he has finally reclaimed his strength from its zenith. Turning to Beatrice, he commands her to prepare, for they are about to embark on a grand ritual one made possible by the very sheath that now empowers him. He intends to first establish the Night Order and prepare for the appointment of a Grail Knight. Through a grand ritual, he will summon the star. Meanwhile, a woman walks, phone pressed to her ear. The voice on the other end questions her commitment to staying there. She replies with determination, revealing her desire to kill someone. Although she possesses countless sword techniques from the Divine Sword Guild, she feels they are still insufficient. She needs the divine law to eliminate him. The voice on the other end of the phone inquires if she knows the whereabouts of her target. She replies that he was last spotted in Vietnam, still wielding the demonic sword. Meanwhile, at the Panchen Guild, morning training is underway, focusing on horseback assault and defense. The relentless training continues as they keep pummeling Shuo. An announcement echoes through the arena. The Defenders team has emerged victorious, and it's time for the next round. Concerned voices surround Suho, asking if he's all right, but he feels as though he's just brushed against death itself. This sensation keeps haunting him, a reminder of the intensity of the competition. As the students' team claims victory, the morning training session comes to a close. Leon Dragania Lionheart steps forward, his voice commanding attention. He declares that anyone who faltered as an attacker must come forward, emphasizing that the soldiers on foot are slower than their agile counterparts. The atmosphere thickens with anticipation as everyone awaits the next move. He instructs everyone to prepare for another charge, urging them to leverage their mobility to gain an edge. Exhaustion weighs heavily on them, and they can feel their strength waning, convinced that the enemy is resolute in their pursuit of victory. As they munch on meager snacks of potatoes and sweet potatoes, they lament their situation, pondering how long they can survive on nothing but sugar and salt water. They can't help but reminisce about their arrival at the gates, when they enjoyed proper meals instead of this pitiful fare. As the induction ceremony approaches, anticipation fills the air. Soon, everyone will enjoy a proper feast, a moment that signifies their connection to the gods. Having dedicated countless hours to studying divine teachings, they understand that to become royal knights, they must embrace the divine law and choose the deity they believe in most. One among them feels a strong pull toward two figures, Ariana, the goddess of light and justice, and Pados, the god of war and fire. Their Majesty has declared these two as the most vital knights to honor, and he is certain that his faith lies with them. The three girls engage in a lively discussion about Sir Yappy, a Grail Knight of Hedo, the divinity of steel and blacksmithing. One of them recalls witnessing him conducting a charged practical experiment during their last encounter. Just then, Sir Yappy materializes on the screen, asserting that his true talent lies not in earning money and that his sound wave detector capabilities are unmatched by any living organism. Student Kim Jae-hook is called to change and head to the entrance. As a guardian is visiting, in the lobby of the Pantheon Guild, he spots his mother waiting for him. Curious, he asks what brings her there, urging her to get to the point quickly. After all, he's busy. His mother studies him, noting how much he resembles his father. With a hint of concern, she questions why he requested to withdraw from their guild. But Jae-hook remains tight-lipped, insisting that it's none of her business. As their conversation unfolds, the man at the counter proudly reveals that the guild ranks among the top 10 in Korea, suggesting that Jae-hook's future would be promising if he decides to join. Meanwhile, Leon turns to the students, probing them about what distinguishes the gods of the pantheon from the cults. One student, visibly perplexed, hesitates and asks if it's considered sacrilege to draw a comparison between the pantheon and the cults. Beatrice speculates that the gods of the pantheon might indeed exist. Leon counters, asking if there's any proof that the cult's god does not exist. Another student chimes in, stating that, to his knowledge, those gods don't perform miracles. Leon challenges this notion, questioning whether a god loses their divinity simply because they don't manifest miracles. He recounts how goddess Damera manifested before them as a scarecrow, noting that many gods in the pantheon have yet to reveal themselves. Leon challenges him, asking if he's implying that those gods don't exist and demanding a guarantee. Cheon Soyeon raises her hand, asserting that the pantheon gods truly assist them, unlike the cults, as they respond to their prayers and perform miracles. That's how they affirm their existence. Leon turns to her and inquires whether, given her service to the divinities of war and fire, as well as justice and light, she has received any answers from them. She doubts her faith is strong enough. Leon interjects, insisting that they are all misinterpreting the situation. Just then, a thunderstorm erupts in a clear sky. Leon realizes that some among them will take this as undeniable proof of a higher power. As gods are meant to grant wishes and fulfill prayers, Cheon Soyeon reflects on her request for rain not to escape it, but rather to embrace it. Yet she can't shake the feeling that a divine force is shielding her from getting wet. Leon, ever the pragmatist, warns her against bargaining with the gods. After all, they are deities, not mere genie lamps. He reminds her that belief is a personal choice, whether in a pantheon of gods or none at all. Even if they don't exist, their teachings hold profound wisdom. He cautions them to be wary of hypothetical followers who promise rewards in exchange for faith, urging them to believe without the expectation of receiving something in return. Just then, the goddess arrives, greeting all the students, and their excitement is palpable as they hear her voice. However, she quickly reminds them not to get carried away, warning that such enthusiasm could hinder them in battle when focus is paramount. Leon believes they need to recruit a few more Grail Knights, as there are only 3, himself included. He feels that Hari Hevo has the greatest potential to join their ranks. A few days later, at the Pantheon Guild's Naju Plains branch, members of One Brilliance arrive with a bold proclamation. One can only ascend to heaven by placing their trust in the Dragon God. They warn that those who refuse to believe are destined for hell. Panic ensues as nearly everyone begins to cry out for the mercy of the Dragon God to protect them. Amidst the chaos, 2 men exchange glances, wondering if they've lost their minds for shouting so loudly in front of the Pantheon Guild. Meanwhile, a member of the Dragon God's team continues to yell, insisting that heretics and demons should be banished. Just then, Sir Yappy arrives, his brow furrowed in concern. "What on earth are you all doing?" he demands, noting the uproar that has reached an unbearable level. He urges them to quiet down, reminding them that they don't have permission to shout in that place. Suddenly, the machine springs to life, launching an attack and commanding everyone to leave. Meanwhile, the men from One Brilliance stand before the Pantheon Guild once more, holding signs that read, "Apologies." Sir Yappy, visibly annoyed, orders them to leave and never return. Despite the tension, the men refuse to back down. Sir Yappy lunges at them, demanding to know if they truly wish to meet their end. The leader, filled with bravado, turns and flees, hurling curses at Sir Yappy. He insists that his retreat isn't born from fear, but rather from his own wickedness. As they scurry away, the man from One Brilliance catches up with his fellow guild members, who quickly inquire about his well-being. "Are you all right? Did they hurt you?" they ask, concern etched on their faces. The man responds with irritation, brushing off the concern. "It's nothing," he scoffs. "Someone like Sir Yappy can't touch me." Mr. Choi narrows his eyes, pressing him. "Did you even get the job done?" A smirk spreads across the man's face as he reveals a hidden camera tucked into his tie. "It's all recorded," he says confidently. They both pull out their phones, ready to watch the footage together. Mr. Choi smirks as he watches Sir Yappy threaten the members of the One Brilliance Guild. This will be more than enough, he muses, and soon the Pantheon Guild will discover just how juicy Korean law can be. The following day, Mr. Choi eagerly opens his laptop, convinced that the news will be filled with reports attacking the Pantheon Guild. He expects to see the story plastered all over the internet. However, as he navigates to the news website, he is greeted by a slew of articles about them, each one more surprising than the last. He questions why they are the targets instead of the Pantheon Guild. Meanwhile, within the Pantheon Guild, Sir Yappy exclaims in frustration that One Brilliance's server is down. As Jae-hyuk strolls down the street, he glances at the family pictures in his hands. He mutters to himself that he came here because he was instructed to, yet uncertainty lingers in his mind. He reflects on the God who bestowed upon him a miracle, convinced that without that divine intervention, he would be lost and doing nothing at all. He shivers at the thought of him, fear creeping into his mind. As he makes his way home, he rings the doorbell. His mother greets him with a warm smile, and he weakly replies that he can only stay for one meal. But then, a voice echoes in his head, commanding him to punish her and deliver her judgment from the heavens, declaring this a test for Jae-hyuk. Meanwhile, his mother cheerfully informs him that she made kimchi stew his favorite and asks if he'd like some pastries first. Jae-hyuk brushes aside the voice echoing in his mind and takes a seat at the table, glancing at his mother. "Aren't you going to eat with me?" he asks. She shakes her head, explaining that she's already had her meal. Curiously, she inquires about the taste of the dishes. Just then, he hears the voice again, demanding that he punish the heathen, but he focuses on his mother's warm smile. "It tastes great," he replies, and her face brightens as she encourages him to help himself to more. Under the cover of night, Jae-hyuk sits alone in a park, the stillness around him broken by the voice of the god of heaven and thunder. The deity's tone is thunderous as he condemns the people below, labeling them as evil heathens ensnared in a false religion, a mere cult. With an air of authority, he commands Jae to enact punishment upon them. Jae, his voice trembling, weakly protests. "But she is my mother." The god's response is swift and unyielding. "There are far greater matters than blood ties. Following a false god is a sin beyond forgiveness. You must punish the heretic." Jae-hyuk screams in frustration, questioning why he's being tasked with this when Leon is the god. How is he supposed to take down a massive cult on his own, especially when his mother is involved? Suddenly, Leon appears from behind, startling Jae-hyuk. He turns around, greeting the god with a mix of surprise and respect. Leon takes a seat beside him, casually revealing that he's already aware of Jae-hyuk's predicament. Jae-hyuk inquires how Leon knows, to which Leon responds that it was impossible not to notice after all the chaos he stirred up in the guild. In a moment of humility, Jae-hyuk drops to his knees, apologizing profusely. Leon, however, urges him to rise and boldly questions the god of heaven and thunder about the weight of the burden he places on a young child. The god replies with an air of authority, stating that he alone determines what constitutes a burden too great or too small for his servants. Leon confidently tells the god that if punishment is what he seeks for the cult, he should leave it to him. However, the god firmly refuses, insisting that he wants Jae-hyuk to carry out the punishment to demonstrate his resolve. With a reluctant agreement, Leon concludes the conversation with the god of heaven and thunder. Turning to Jae-hyuk, he questions why he hadn't shared the method with him earlier. He informs Jae-hyuk that a group has attempted to tarnish their reputation, but Sir Spina has taught them a harsh lesson. They have declared war against Jae-hyuk and his allies, claiming it will be a rather one-sided conflict. Jae-hyuk firmly shakes his head, asking, "What will happen to my mother?" Leon interrupts him, asserting that he's not some deranged killer. Instead, he intends to teach them a lesson. Rising to his feet, he smiles to himself and instructs Jae-hyuk to lead him to their base. Meanwhile, one remarkable master, Park Young-shin, was born in 1990 and faced the cataclysm at just 12 years old. In those days before the academy was established, everyone learned through hard-earned experience. In the winter of 2014, Young-shin had risen to fame as an A-rank hunter. It was during this season that he encountered God at the Samchok Fluctuating Gate. Tragically, he had lost all his party members to an unexpected surge in difficulty. As despair loomed, the system presented him with a choice. Would he like to be saved? When he answered affirmatively, the voice blessed him, marking the moment that would transform him into South Korea's 7th S-rank hunter. Young-shin addresses his audience with fervor, proclaiming that God exists and reveals his presence daily. He urges everyone to witness the warriors of God who are blessed and to heed the gospel as they pass through the gate. One of the warriors, brimming with enthusiasm, shares that initially the gate appeared ordinary, but upon entering, something extraordinary happened within his system. Initially, their mission was to eliminate the boss and mine mana stones within the dungeon. However, the system unexpectedly led them to a treasure chest, turning their lives upside down. The followers eagerly agreed, proclaiming it a divine blessing. The warrior urged everyone to have faith in God. Such occurrences were not uncommon for the hunters of One Brilliance. Even the Hunter Association had to officially recognize that these miracles were no mere coincidence. They were somehow linked to one brilliance, allowing the association to expand its influence with ease. Young Shin smiled as he listened to his followers extolling the virtues of the dragon god. He began by cautioning them that not everything is as it appears. He then shared the story of a hunter who had raided gates to find a cure for his sick mother, only to be unexpectedly blessed with a miraculous herb that could heal all ailments. He also recounts the story of a talentless hunter who miraculously leveled up, a transformation that occurred after both of them demonstrated their faith through generous donations. Young Shin exclaims that their god has bestowed miracles upon them, pleased by their devotion. He passionately preaches that by proving their own faith, everyone can receive similar blessings, emphasizing that they are all part of the same family. The followers fervently praise their god, their voices rising in a chorus of devotion. Young Shin's gaze drifts to the back, landing on Leon and Beatrice. A wave of shock washes over him as he realizes that the leader of the Pantheon Guild is present. Leon clenches his teeth in anger, his thoughts consumed by the cults and the parasites who prey on the impoverished, teaching them false beliefs for their own gain. With a sly smile, Young Shin announces that a very special guest has graced them with his presence today. He declares that the first comers are to be baptized, beckoning Leon to join him at the front. Leon rises to his feet, commending Young Shin for his audacity in summoning a king. With a confident stride, he approaches and dramatically tosses a hefty pile of money at Young Shin's feet. Confused, Young Shin asks what he's doing. Leon, unwavering, insists that it's time for a miracle to unfold. After all, Young Shin claimed that miracles could be experienced through donations, and now Leon is ready to negotiate with his god. Young Shin smiles, playfully chiding him for attempting to test the miracle of God. Leon counters, asking if loyalty and devotion alone are sufficient to earn a place in heaven, questioning whether Young Shin believes he has the authority to decide who is worthy. Gritting his teeth, Young Shin firmly commands him to submit and obey the pastor, insisting that it is the rule of the gospel. Leon, filled with fury, challenges how a servant of God could dare to consider himself an equal to the divine. He denounces such faith as vulgar and shameful. Young Shin, with a mocking grin, taunts Leon, suggesting that he believes himself superior. He points an accusing finger at Leon, labeling him a non-believer and a servant of demons, insisting that they must purge this demon from the sacred grounds of the dragon god. The crowd, stirred by Young Shin's words, begins to chant, branding Leon a demon and demanding his expulsion. Jae-hook, seated beside Beatrice, believes that His Majesty can handle the situation. Young Shin chuckles and calls Leon sickening, just as a voice from the back suddenly screams Jae-hook's name. He remains seated, while Beatrice covers her mouth in disbelief. Leon Dragoniah Lionheart, as a king, can endure many challenges, but there are three things he absolutely will not tolerate. The first offense is when someone speaks ill of their parents. It's an insult to the entire household. The second is insulting the Gajiao. Can mere mortals dare to defy them? Leon turns around, seething at the audacity of a vulgar cultist who would dare compare him, the king of the Lionheart, to a demon. The final straw is that comparison itself. With a roar, he declares that he should punish them all right now, sending a wave of fear through the crowd. He pulls out his pendant, channeling a spell, and declares that he will punish each of them for their false beliefs and vulgarity. Young Shin watches him, fear etched on her face. Leon proclaims that the divine star will cleanse them all. Meanwhile, an astronaut savoring his meal glances out and spots a star hurtling toward Earth. His thoughts racing, could this be the end of the world? Leon pulls out his pendant, allowing Saint S. Onjak's divine relic to guide the star. He curses under his breath, vowing that the demons will be vanquished. Young Shin watches in confusion, while the hunter from earlier shakes his head, convinced that Leon has lost his mind. Beatrice rises to her feet, signaling to Sir Yappy, who stands behind her. With a swift motion, she raises her hand, activating her powers. "It's better if you all see this for yourselves," she declares, before shattering the ceiling above, leaving everyone in stunned silence. Young Shin, still reeling, exclaims, "Are you crazy? Why would you do that?" Leon, unfazed, replies casually, "Well, it seems you summoned a star." Young Shin insists he must be out of his mind. A shadow looms overhead, and as he looks up, he sees a star an estimated 68 billion tons hurtling straight toward him. Leon summons Meteor Mickey, signaling Beatrice, who responds that she's ready. Together, they activate the divine power. Beatrice envelops the meteor with her energy, while Sir Yappy prepares the property-changing divine ammo. United, the three of them charge at the meteor, shattering it into pieces, leaving Young Shin pale and speechless. Even the system seems to curse. Young-shin calls out for his god, dropping to his knees and covering his face, only to discover the meteor halted just inches from his eyes. How is this possible? He wonders in disbelief. Meanwhile, Leon stands there with an air of calm, while Beatrice praises the spectacle. Sir Yappy, after making a comparison, informs them that this meteor is unlike any metal in the database. Leon strides toward Young-shin, his voice steady but laced with intensity. Are you aware of your sins? How long did you think you could hide in the shadows? He then calls out to Kim Jae-hook, urging him to step forward. With a firm grip, Leon seizes Jae-hook's shoulders and turns him to face Young-shin. Now, you'll witness the true evil that has taken hold of him. Jae-hook's eyes widen in horror as he catches sight of a grotesque red demon clinging to Young-shin. As Young-shin continues to shout that they're crossing a line, Leon responds, "This evil consumes the human mind. It's a parasitic force, latching on to people and biding its time, waiting for the perfect moment to strike." Just then, Kaehyuk's mother calls out to him, and he turns to see the same demon feeding off her. Anger surges within him as he demands answers from Leon. The demon prince explains that this is the evil the god of heaven and thunder seeks to punish, and it is Jae-hyuk's duty to confront it. When Jae-hyuk hesitates, torn at the thought of harming his own mother, Leon urges him to trust in his god and believe that everything will unfold as it should. After a moment of inner turmoil, Jae-hyuk raises his hand, ready to make a choice that will change everything. At first, it's a symbolic gesture, born from a deep wish. He closes his eyes and prays, asking that the miracle he creates pierce only through evil, while pleading with God to forgive those who are innocent. As the demon feeding off his mother begins to burn, she collapses to her knees, calling out for him. He rushes to her side, wrapping her in a tight embrace as the demon is consumed by flames. His mother, trembling, apologizes as he holds her close, their bond unbroken, even in the face of darkness. Leon praises Jae-hyuk, reflecting on how he was chosen by the god of heaven and thunder. Turning to Young-shin, he issues a warning. "You're next." With a swift motion, Leon destroys the demon, leaving Young-shin to collapse, unconscious. The small demon attempts to flee, but Leon swiftly crushes it beneath his boot. As he stands over the defeated creature, he reflects on how these demons infiltrate society, much like the insidious evils of pleasure, corruption, and curiosity. It's a relief that Young-shin remained untouched by their influence, preserving his soul. Drawing his sword, Leon dispatches the last demon, his voice cold and steady. "Could you save yourself, just as you preach to others about salvation?" He taunts, a bitter edge to his words. As the meteor descends, a crowd gathers in awe around One Brilliance. Over the past decade, they have welcomed millions, establishing a formidable presence in politics, the economy, and the world of hunters. Now, the incident involving the meteor captures the public's attention like never before. Young-shin stands before the gathered reporters, a confident smile on his face as he announces a momentous decision. Starting today, they will merge with the Pantheon Guild. He reveals that all of their funds will be entrusted to the Guildmaster, His Majesty Leon Dragania Lionheart, the Divine Human. With a flourish, he declares that their raid team will now serve as the Pantheon Guild's men-at-arms, ready to face whatever challenges lie ahead. A reporter inquires about their connection with the Pantheon Guild. Young-shin confidently proclaims that Leon is the true savior and the messenger of the gods, urging everyone to embrace genuine faith. Leon surveys the crowd, noting the noise, but it's hardly surprising after all. Earth has never experienced anything like this before. He turns to Sir Spinay and asks when they can begin their work. The robot responds that they still need to construct the essential facilities, including the main one at Pantheon. Leon insists they require 50 sets of armor and swords without delay, emphasizing that, while spears and horse armor are less urgent, both types of armor remain crucial. Sir Yappy interjects, pointing out that they will need to expand the facility and navigate the relevant laws as well. At that moment, Leon receives a call from the president of the Hunter Association, who reveals he has been searching for him. Leon acknowledges the President and the Ministry of Information and Communications on Science and Technology. The President greets him warmly, while Mr. Kim, visibly nervous, inquires about the meteor. With a calm demeanor, Leon simply replies, "I own it." The president remains unfazed, as Leon reveals he summoned the meteor, leaving Mr. Kim in stunned silence. Curiously, the president inquires how Leon intends to utilize it. With confidence, Leon responds that he plans to forge swords and armor for his knights. Mr. Kim, eager to contribute, starts to suggest how the meteor could benefit their department, but the president swiftly cuts him off, readily accepting Leon's request. He then mentions that Hari had informed him about the smithy currently under construction, and asks if the meteor will be utilized there. Leon nods in response, prompting the president to inquire whether the necessary facilities and legal processes for utilizing the meteor are still underway. When Leon confirms that they are, the president beams with delight, assuring him that the Hunter Association will take care of everything, from taxes to legalities, even if it means drafting a new law. Curious, Leon asks if the president desires anything in return. With a glint in his eye, the president expresses his wish for a piece of the meteor and some armor crafted by Sir Yappy, declaring it an honor to possess armor made by the divine blacksmith. Leon agrees, mentioning that he had intended to gift it to him all along. However, he reminds the president that artifacts from the Star Iron Smithy cannot be given away lightly. While they may not be divine relics, their value is undeniable. The president inquires once more if Hari will receive an artifact from the Star Iron Smithy. Leon nods affirmatively, prompting the president to declare that whenever Hari visits the association, they will be prepared to examine it or have someone assess it, as she is still one of their employees. Leon nods in agreement and shakes hands with the president. With a serious expression, the president pulls out another document, revealing something crucial that Leon needs to examine. As Leon watches a video from inside a gate, the president explains that it depicts a battle in Vietnam, an event that took place on Earth. He elaborates on the Wandering Demon Sword and its current wielder, Shan Yiho, before revealing that the sixth-generation demonic human is en route to Japan. Outside the building, Yong-Wan stands with a heavy sigh. Yuri glances at him, concern etched on her face. "Are you okay?" she asks. When he remains silent, she teasingly questions why they even attended the meeting, given that they already have the upper hand on the tax and reform plan. Yong-Wan grunts in response, frustration evident in his voice. "It's all because of Leon," he mutters. "He's been changing, getting more involved with the Pantheon Guild." Yong-Wan winces, clutching his stomach. Yuri smirks, teasing him. "If you want to be kind, just embrace it. You should merge with the Pantheon Guild like One Brilliance did." Yong-Wan shakes his head in disagreement just as Sua arrives, greeting them with a warm smile. Yuri glances at her and adds, "You haven't changed a bit." Sua acknowledges that she knows they rejected the medicine, to which Yuri responds that it simply didn't align with their guild's image. As they step into the meeting room, Shaon Jinsu greets them warmly. Yong-Wan scans the room, spotting Park Jong-soo, Kang Jin-sung, Hwang Yeon-ha, and Wang Gyum-chol, all guildmasters from various factions gathered for the meeting. Just then, the elderly Jin-soo smirks at Yuri, mocking her choice of outfit. In a swift gesture, Yong-Wan offers her his jacket, trying to shield her from the old man's jibes. With a mischievous glint in his eye, Jin-soo then quips, "So, when's the wedding?" Yong-Wan swiftly denies any romantic involvement, insisting they are not dating. Jinsu, raising his voice, points out that at their age, he already has 6 children. The other guildmasters exchange glances, considering Jinsu a relic of the past. With a puff of cigar smoke, Jinsu declares with fierce determination that he will take down Shan Ji-ho. Just as he prepares to make a fateful decision, someone intervenes, and he bellows, "Who will stop me if I'm killing my own son?" The door swings open, revealing Leon, who strides in confidently toward Jinsu, seated at the head of the table. Yong-Wan silently reflects on the generational divide, noting that while Jinsu is a boomer, Leon embodies the very essence of a boomer king. Without hesitation, Leon asserts his dominance, demanding his rightful seat at the table. Shane Jinsu, Korea's finest swordsman and the revered guildmaster of the nation's top-ranked Divine Sword Guild, has become a living legend. His extraordinary feats and unwavering dedication to the country have rendered him untouchable, a figure of authority that few dare to challenge. Yet today, he stands before Leon, a determined challenger who boldly demands his seat at the table. Jinsu stares at Leon in disbelief. "Are you deaf?" Leon taunts, his youth contrasting sharply with his words. Frustrated, Jinsu slams his hand on the table, ready to unleash a torrent of curses. But before he can, the president interjects, revealing Leon is actually 300 years old. Jinsu's eyes widen in shock. The president continues, "Grail Knights do not physically age, and yes, Leon is indeed 300 years old." Jinsu, still processing this revelation, asks once more, "Is that really true?" Leon meets Jinsu's gaze with a stern look, prompting Jinsu to quickly relinquish his seat. Yong-Wan silently muses that the boomer has been bested. Leon then requests tea, and just then, Yangshid bursts in, catching the other guildmasters off guard. Sua, captivated by Leon's presence, stares at him and remarks that he is indeed as handsome as the rumors suggest, before introducing herself. Yangshik reprimands her for speaking out of turn, but Leon interjects with calm authority, declaring that it's time to stop. He then turns to the president, emphasizing realizing that his time is more precious than gold. The president cuts to the chase, recounting how, 13 years ago, a mysterious black gate emerged in London. Its formidable challenges rendered it impossible for anyone to conquer. Fearing a repeat of the Shanghai disaster, the European Union assembled a powerful S-rank raid squad, consisting of 24 elite members in a bold attempt to clear the gate. In addition, there were 1,834 A and B rank hunters from 32 different European guilds, under the command of Cornwall Wong, the Archmage of the Clock Tower. The raid lasted for 2 months and ended in remarkable success. For the first time ever, a black gate had been cleared, and the celebration that followed was nothing short of jubilant. However, Leon interjects, suggesting that the real challenges began after the victory. The president nods in agreement and elaborates on the legendary weapon known as excessive murder, the most powerful artifact to emerge in the 30 years since the Great Cataclysm. With its arrival, humanity's greed surged, igniting fierce competition among nations. Ultimately, it was the British government that claimed this formidable item for themselves. The sword was sold for trillions of won, surpassing even the cost of the latest warship. It was then rented out to the era's most renowned swordsman, James Spencer, the guildmaster of the Gentleman League. This marked the beginning of a catastrophic chain of events. The sword consumed him completely, leading to the deaths of thousands of civilians and over 600 hunters. In the aftermath, Leon questions whether he was the 6th generation of demonic humans, and if he had met his end. The president confirms that they successfully eliminated the vessel, Sir James, but the demonic sword managed to escape. It soared into the sky, disappearing without a trace. Since that day, the hunt has continued, with teams dispatched to track down and eliminate vessels across the globe: Mexico, Australia, Cambodia, Spain, and most recently Korea. About 4 years ago, the sword found its way into the hands of Cheon-ji-ho, the intended successor of the Divine Sword Guild's guildmaster. The president then reveals to Leon that Cheon-ji-ho is the son of Cheon-jinsu, the current guildmaster, and the grandfather of Cheon-soyeon, whom Leon has welcomed into his own guild. After their meeting, the president presents Leon with a list of guilds set to participate in the upcoming demonic sword raid. The leaders of the Pantheon, One Brilliance, Divine Sword Guild, Golden Lion Guild, and Phoenix Guild gathered, each weighing in on the matter at hand. One guild leader raised his hand, declaring his intent to participate. However, another leader hesitated, voicing his concerns about the situation and expressing doubt about any potential gains. Leon stepped forward, his voice steady and resolute. "We will gain honor," he asserted. "This is our chance to fulfill our duties as knights and nobles." It is the fulfillment of duty that creates the wall for the people to lean on. With tears streaming down his face, Young Shik cries out in praise of Leon, calling him their savior. Meanwhile, Yang Wan closes his eyes, wishing to distance himself from the very man who has become a symbol of hope. The president begins to discuss Japan's financial offer of 10 trillion won, but before he can complete his thought, Leon interjects, declaring their acceptance. He adds with a hint of authority that he assumes there's a king involved, so they should reach out to him in advance and prepare to head outside. The president nods in agreement, promising to contact the government there. With that, Leon strides away, and Young Shik eagerly trails behind him, a smile on his face. Suddenly, Jinsu calls out Leon's name. Leon spins around, anger flashing in his eyes, but Jinsu quickly corrects himself, addressing him as Your Majesty. With a hint of urgency, he states that he has a request for the King Wan that he believes he has the right to make. Leon, still tense, replies that he will consider it after hearing what Jinsu has to say. Jinsu takes a breath and reveals that there's only one thing he truly desires, and he's certain that Leon already knows what it is. His granddaughter, Cheon-soyeon, is a member of the Pantheon Guild. He pleads with him to leave her out of this raid. Meanwhile, Cheon-soyeon tosses and turns in her sleep, trapped in a nightmare where everything is irreparably shattered. In her dream, her mother is desperately urging her to flee, while her father looms ominously, sword in hand, moving closer to Soyeon. Suddenly, she jolts awake, drenched in cold sweat. Sitting alone by the vending machine, she mutters to herself that it's beginning and that it's an opportunity. Just then, Ventarsus appears, his voice dripping with disdain as he remarks that it's insolent to view this as an opportunity. She responds coolly, reminding him that this is precisely the nature of their negotiation. Ventarsus smirks, assuming that Leon, her avenger, has already taught her the futility of negotiating with the divine. She attempts to argue, but the god of revenge interrupts, asserting that he was the one who answered her insolent pleas. He's the only one willing to grant her power, despite her wavering faith. With a warning tone, he advises her not to take fortune lightly. Soyeon, undeterred, inquires if she has something he desires. Will she be able to become a Grail Knight as well? Ventarsis chuckles, taunting her by asking if she dares to compare herself to his avenger. He dismisses her accomplishments as insignificant next to the legendary king of the Lion Hearts, questioning whether she believes she can truly fill that role. Soyeon suddenly realizes that Leon must have also drawn power from Ventarsis. With a cold smirk, Ventarsis tells her she is nothing at this moment, but offers to aid her in her quest for revenge, though the price will be her soul. He warns her that once her vengeance is fulfilled, her soul will belong to him. Meanwhile, Leon addresses the academy and its students, announcing that they will be integrated into the association's military. He commands the line to form, instructing them to collect their supplies. Jae-hyuk turns to Hari, inquiring whether Soyeon will be part of the mission. He mentions that he heard Jinsu is opposed to the idea. Hari responds, explaining that when she asked His Majesty about it earlier, he stated it was beyond his authority to intervene. Just then, Leon calls out their names, prompting Suho, Jae-hyuk, Hari, and Soyeon to step forward. He begins by expressing that their accomplishments thus far have exceeded his expectations. He praises Hari, noting that the gods admire those who possess innocence. He emphasizes that she has demonstrated both her talent and her purity, which truly deserve recognition. A smile spreads across Hari's face as Leon presents her with armor, a sword, and a spear. He tells her that it will help unlock her true power. She gazes at the armor, admiring its beauty, just as Peidos and Poma approach from behind, echoing her praise. Peidos blesses the armor, declaring that Hari will be the saint who scorches their enemies with fire in this war. Poma adds her blessing, encouraging her to trust her body to the boundless sea and to fill her heart with unwavering faith. Youngsik and his followers offer their praises to the gods. As Hari's armor ascends to legendary status, the other students marvel at its worth, speculating that it could fetch billions. They wonder if it's even possible to assign a proper price to such a treasure. Suddenly, Leon strides toward Jae-hyuk, calling his name with the authority of the god of heaven and thunder. Jae-hyuk is taken aback. Leon blesses his armor, proclaiming that the light of power will forever accompany him. He declares that Jae-hyuk will become a judge who punishes evil, standing alongside the king of the Lion Heart, with justice as his steadfast protector. His resolve remains unyielding, even in the face of the corrupt and the fallen. Goddess Ariana blesses Suho, wishing that the light of immortality guides him through the darkness. When it's Soyeon's turn, Leon informs her that her grandfather has requested to withdraw her from this mission. He asks if she shares the same desire. Soyeon firmly replies that she wants to be part of this mission. Leon nods in agreement and reveals his armor to her. Ventarsis begins the blessing, declaring his support for her quest for revenge, promising that his gift will summon the darkness of destruction. He emphasizes that he alone can fulfill her wishes. As Leon draws his sword, Ventarsis inquires about his intentions. With a confident smile, Leon replies that he is merely concerned for the future of his disciple. Soyeon watches in awe, wondering what the Majesty has in store. Leanne removes the sword from the armor as the goddess Ariana begins her blessing. The light will be your exit, she instructs, urging her to move toward it. The sword radiates with a brilliance so intense it nearly blinds those nearby. Ventarsis, caught off guard, quickly interjects, "What are you doing? Are you having second thoughts?" Ariana declares that she is merely fulfilling the wish of her knight. The god of revenge approaches Leon, referring to him as his avenger, and remarks that Leon's compassion for humans is utterly sickening. Leon retorts that he is their king. Ventarsis smirks mockingly, bringing up the painful memory of Leon's lost daughter. At this, Ariana shoots him a sharp glare, while Leon's gaze drops, weighed down by the sorrow of his past. Ventarsis continues, reminding Leon that he is the rightful successor to the throne of Lionheart and Draganius. He emphasizes that Leon must remember how their founder achieved glory even in the depths of darkness. Leon responds, acknowledging his words and refers to Ventarsis as the guardian of their founder. Ventarsis turns to Soyeon, cautioning her not to let her reliance on the light divert her from her true purpose. Revenge can only be achieved in the cold darkness, he reminds her, affectionately calling her his little avenger. Meanwhile, Kamiya Yasuda, the president of the Japan Hunter Association, instructs his assistant to bring him the list of attendees for the upcoming raid. He chuckles, noting that the prime minister must be growing anxious to resort to using survivors from overseas. His assistant grins, remarking that the government has clearly lost its grip lately. Kamiya chuckles, confident in his position. "It doesn't matter," he declares. "This nation is practically my kingdom now." Curious, he inquires about the Pantheon Guild. She admits they are intimidating, but insists they pale in comparison to their own power. Still, she acknowledges they pose a significant challenge. Kamiya leans in, revealing that he's heard rumors of Pantheon followers even in their midst. Their marketing tactics are impressively effective, he notes, and strangely, there's been little public outcry against them. He jokes that it might actually be feasible if they've taken over the entire internet. With a determined glint in his eye, he decides to place the Pantheon Guild at the forefront of the mission's first phase. His assistant raises a concern, noting that Korea will likely oppose this plan, but he dismisses her worry with a wave of his hand. They can share in the effort, he assures her. He then instructs her to inform them that they will deploy 3 raid teams, each comprised of full cadres of S-rank members. She attempts to argue, but he interrupts her with a smirk, declaring that those teams have been a thorn in his side lately. This is the perfect opportunity to eliminate them. His smile widens as he envisions a future where his kingdom is even more flawless. He suggests that if they throw the Pantheon Guild an extravagant welcome party, they can rally them to take the front line without a hitch. As the plane touches down on Japanese soil, the welcoming team begins to sweat nervously. The atmosphere reminds them of the time Thailand's royal family visited, and they silently pray that this time, nothing goes awry. One of them recalls the president's warning. Leon is anything but ordinary, and engaging in a political clash with him is ill-advised. The president had instructed them to treat Leon like royalty. As the plane door swings open, Leon emerges, hand in hand with Beatrice, both adorned in opulent royal attire. The sight leaves the Japanese staff utterly awestruck. The person in charge quickly recognizes that what he is witnessing transcends mere dignity or power. It is a profound disparity in status, one that eludes those who wield power only in name. He promptly greets His Majesty, the King of the Lionheart, and Her Majesty, Beatrice. Leon extends his hand and inquires if he is indeed the king of this nation. The person gasps in shock, and the president trailing behind Leon appears equally startled. Just then, Kamiya strides toward them, laughter in his voice as he remarks that it makes sense after all. Leon hails from a different nation. He clarifies that the individual is merely a representative of the cabinet. With a confident smile, he introduces himself as the president of the Japanese Hunters Association and extends his hand to Leon. Leon glares at his hand, teeth clenched in anger. How dare a peasant attempt to lay hands on a royal's precious body? He demands, his voice laced with indignation. Without hesitation, he orders Kamiya to be removed from his presence. Kamiya grits his teeth in anger, seething at how Leon dares to treat him with such disrespect in his own country. Stepping forward, a hunter named Takeda calls out Leon, branding him rude and questioning how he could speak to their president in such a manner. Leon merely smirks, unfazed, and retorts, "Why should I care about the ranks of mere peasants?" Takeda's fury ignites, unleashing waves of scorching energy around him. The representative pleads desperately for him to halt, while the Korean president observes the escalating chaos, his expression a portrait of sheer stress. Leon smirks, taunting Kamiya for not even training his dog properly. "It's the owner's fault," he says, drawing his sword with a flourish. Meanwhile, the president of the Korean Hunters Association wipes the sweat from his forehead, tension thick in the air. Hari, anxiety creeping into his voice, asks what they should do. The president, equally uncertain, can only stare as Leon unsheathes his sword. Takeda seems poised to protest, but before he can speak, a messenger bursts in, breathless and frantic, announcing urgent news: the wandering demon sword has been sighted. Leon's eyes sharpen with focus as he demands to know where it has appeared. The messenger, still reeling from the revelation, responds that the demon sword is currently traversing the ocean, gliding effortlessly atop a sword. Meanwhile, Cheong-Chi-ho glides across the ocean, riding his sword as it cleaves the sea in two, forging a path to a dungeon that emerges from the depths. A satisfied smile spreads across his face as demons begin to surge forth from the dungeon's maw. With a wide grin, he calls out Soyeon's name. Reveling in the chaos, security swiftly pulls up footage on the screens, revealing the demonic sword triggering a dungeon break at the Dragon Palace gate before disappearing beneath the waves. Kamiya gasps in disbelief, questioning how anyone could initiate a dungeon break. Another guild leader clarifies that the break occurred immediately after the demonic sword passed through the gate. Confusion spreads among Kamiya and the other leaders as they grapple with the sudden appearance of the gate. Then, Leon steps forward, his demeanor calm and collected. "It's not impossible for a gate to manifest," he states. Sensing the urgency of the situation, he offers to share vital information. Turning to Beatrice, he urges her to explain everything. Beatrice steps forward and calls for Sir Yapei, who promptly hacks into all the computers in the room, leaving everyone in a state of confusion and tension. As the screens flicker to life, Beatrice begins her presentation. She explains that approximately 4 weeks ago they conducted a raid on the Western Sea Gate alongside the Federation hunters. During that operation, they started to suspect that something was amiss with the gate, the system, and the quest they were assigned. Their conclusion: gates can be created artificially. Everyone is taken aback, their faces a mix of shock and disbelief. One person voices the concern that this revelation shatters their fundamental understanding of raiding gates. Yet, Leon remains composed amidst the chaos. He asserts that while the truth may have shifted, their mission remains unchanged. With unwavering resolve, he commands everyone to prepare for war, emphasizing the urgency of getting ready for the monster's descent and the need to locate the demonic sword. Kamiya nods in agreement, acknowledging the formidable power of the Wandering Sword. He believes it's deliberately drawing the attention of the monsters that are sure to arrive soon. With this urgency in mind, they resolve to form a special squad dedicated to countering the demonic sword, ensuring a swift response and quicker assembly in the face of an impending crisis. Leon nods in agreement, entrusting the task to him. With that, the meeting wraps up and the demonic sword raid officially commences. They swiftly devise a strategy. The Japanese Hunters Association will advance toward Wakayama, the Korean Hunters Association will set their sights on Kochi, and the Pantheon Guild will make their way to Miyazaki. The three raid teams swiftly embarked on their missions. Later, the security team updates Kamiya on their successful defense against monsters in Tokushima, Miyazaki, and Wakayama. Impressed, Kamiya commends their swift action, noting it took them only 30 minutes. However, the mood shifts when the personnel report that a giant cannon has fallen from the sky. Concerned, Kamiya reviews the report and reaches out to Takeda for an update on Team 4. Takeda promises to investigate and questions whether their detection device might be malfunctioning. Upon arriving at the scene, he is met with a grim sight. Every member of Team 4 lies dead. A chilling thought crosses his mind. Could the demonic sword have been here? Moving undetected, Takeda quickly informs the security team of the devastating loss, revealing that Team 4 has been completely wiped out. They brace themselves for the implications of this tragedy. As Takeda investigates the massive hole within the carcass of the slain monster, a chilling realization dawns on him. The demonic sword may have concealed itself within the creature, evading detection. Just then, the security team's urgent alert shatters his thoughts. Team 2 has also been annihilated. Takeda stands frozen, disbelief washing over him. Meanwhile, a messenger hurriedly arrives at the Korean Hunters Association with urgent news. The demonic sword has resurfaced. When questioned about the location, he reveals it occurred in Wakayama, where 3 Japanese S-rank hunters have already lost their lives. Takeda is now mobilizing all available teams, with the exception of the Pantheon Guild. Yongwon inquires why they haven't contacted the Pantheon Guild. The messenger replies that their attempts were thwarted when a monster shot down their plane. They quickly redirect their flight toward the designated location. Upon arriving in Wakayama, Takeda expresses his gratitude for their presence. The Korean hunters take a moment to assess the situation. Jin-Soo wonders aloud if their only task was to buy time against the demonic sword. Takeda acknowledges that the demonic sword is far more powerful than they had anticipated. He grimly notes that he would have reached them regardless, as 2 teams have already fallen. The Guildmaster counters, reminding him that they still have 100 A-rank hunters and 9 S-rank hunters on their side. However, before Yongwon can finish his thought, the demonic sword materializes before them, radiating an overwhelming presence. It strides forward, announcing its arrival with chilling confidence, declaring itself the Slayer Akasha, the harbinger of cruel massacre and merciless destruction. The S-rank hunters instinctively draw their weapons, questioning if they have ever encountered anyone stronger than the king, as Jiho slowly approaches them. Just then, a voice commands the Japanese hunters to attack, and they swiftly encircle him, ready for confrontation. Takeda reassures everyone, saying there's nothing to fear. After all, no one has ever endured this level of force before. Yongwon desperately attempts to halt the sudden onslaught, but Jiho's snicker sends a chill down his spine. Recognizing that sinister smile, Yongwon shouts for everyone to get out of the way, but his warning comes too late. In a flash, Jiho slices through the A-rank hunters as if they were mere paper. Yongwon stands frozen in shock, unable to comprehend the devastation unfolding before him. Meanwhile, Takeda reflects on how he would have met the same fate if Yongwon hadn't urged him to move. Panic sets in as he begins to back away, eyes wide just as Jiho approaches, raising his sword for another strike. Suddenly, a glimmer catches Jiho's attention, and Yongwon swiftly commands the Koreans to attack. One of the guildmasters lunges at Jiho from behind, but Jiho effortlessly dodges, leaving the guildmaster frozen in disbelief. With a laugh, Jiho taunts them, calling them weak. Just then, thousands of swords come hurtling toward them like a tempest. In a desperate bid to regain control, the Korean guildmaster activates his limitless swords technique, unleashing a cascade of blades that fall like petals in a storm. Jiho darts through the air, poised for another strike, but a fresh wave of swords descends, claiming more hunters in its relentless onslaught. Jiho turns to the Guildmaster, questioning whether this is the same opponent they faced last time. The Guildmaster nods, recalling their previous encounter in Ulsan, but notes that this time, the foe has undoubtedly grown stronger. Meanwhile, one of the healers rushes to Takeda, panic etched across her face. She desperately attempts to heal him, but cries out in distress, revealing that something is terribly wrong, something she has never encountered before. Yongwon examines the aftermath and realizes that multiple debuffs are stacking on their team. He lets out a deep sigh, recognizing that this isn't their only concern. Jiho might even be on par with the Archduke Demon Rakchar, or perhaps even stronger. With a cold laugh, Jiho cuts through the tension, urging everyone to stop worrying about the odds. Focus on the attack, he commands fiercely. We must kill him here. As Jinsu steps forward to confront Jiho, the demonic swordsman lets out another chilling laugh, remarking that he recognizes Jinsu's face all too well. Jinsu's face hardens as he confronts Jiho, who questions whether he is a blood relative of the vessel. With a fierce glare, Jinsu retorts that he has no son like that. Jiho smirks, tauntingly asking about Jinsu's granddaughter. Jinsu grits his teeth, his anger simmering as he responds that Jiho has no right to know after all. He plans to end Jiho's life tonight. The aircraft glides ominously toward the war zone. Youngshik chuckles, relieved that he had a private helicopter on standby. He glances at the unfolding chaos and muses about the necessity of their presence, given the caliber of fighters involved. With a grin, he turns to Soyeon and asks if she's ready. Soyeon, maintaining her composure, reminds him that she was the one eager to join this venture. She then raises an eyebrow, playfully questioning if he had any specific goals in mind, considering he went through the trouble of sneaking in a helicopter. Youngshik cries out, still pleading for His Majesty's forgiveness. Suddenly, the helicopter jolts, and they rush to the window, where Jinsu and Jiho are locked in a fierce battle, their swords clashing in a relentless rhythm. It's a deadly dance, each strike echoing with tension. Jiho smirks, then conjures the Massacre Lord Akasha's sword, its blade igniting in a fierce crimson glow. Soyeon instinctively calls out for her grandfather. Meanwhile, Yuri stirs awake to find Yunwan anxiously checking on her. Struggling to piece together the events following the father-son clash, she tells him to stop shouting. As she gazes up, her eyes widen at the sight of Jinsu dangling from Jiho's grip, caught in a precarious struggle. The S-ranks are gasping for breath, struggling to regain their footing. Jiho chuckles, remarking that while Jinsu may be old, he expected more from the attack. He honestly thought Jinsu would have perished. It feels as if someone is meddling in the battle. Suddenly, Soyeon leaps into the fray, her sword glimmering with the blessings of Van Tarsis and Ariana. With a swift motion, she slashes the hand that grips Jinsu. The system promptly announces her act of revenge, and a new surge of power courses through her. Now face to face with Jiho, Soyeon believes she has the strength to defeat him. Jiho merely laughs, dismissing her as an amateur, before launching his own attack. Soyeon stands firm, resolutely blocking his strike. Jiho recognizes the strength of her divine power, recalling how countless comrades have fallen before it. Yet, he dismisses her, declaring she is neither a knight nor an orc. With a single forceful strike, he sends her sprawling backward. Standing over her, he coldly asserts that she is nothing. Meanwhile, Youngshik rallies his people, urging them to protect Soyeon for the honor of the Lionheart. They charge at Jiho, but he swiftly pivots, unleashing a wave of crimson energy that ripples through the air. Shock washes over Youngshik's face as he and his comrades, along with Soyeon, are thrown back by the force of the blast. Jiho scoffs, remarking that even a dog tucks its tail when it sees a tiger. He taunts them, declaring their foolishness for daring to fight an immortal. Suddenly, Youngwon bursts into laughter, finding the situation absurd. He points skyward, declaring that before the true man, they are all mere mortals. Jiho turns to see Leon descending on his Pegasus, radiating light like the sun itself. Long ago, there existed a world safeguarded by gods, where kingdoms thrived under the protection of valiant knights. These knights had become a thorn in the side of the immortal demons lurking in the shadows. The knights wielded divine laws to defy the very fabric of nature, vanquishing evil in their wake. In response, the demons conspired to bring them down. 4 of the 7 lords were summoned, commanding 6 archdukes and 87 great demons, all leading an army of 10 million troops. They invaded the realm of the gods, and in the end, they triumphed, laying waste to most of that world. The only forces remaining were the valiant army of knights, poised for their final stand, and the orc horde, reveling in the chaos of war as if it were a grand festival, leaving destruction in their wake across the east. Meanwhile, Akasha had been dispatched to another world, unaware of the cataclysmic conclusion of the conflict. but now he will come to understand just how fortunate he was back then. Jiho taunts him, declaring that Leon has the audacity to call himself the hope of this world. Anger ignites in Leon's eyes as he retorts, "How dare you call me by my name?" Without hesitation, he strides toward Jiho and delivers a powerful punch to his face, sending him crashing to the ground. The guildmasters watch in stunned silence, while Takeda wonders how Leon managed to knock out the Archduke Demon with just a single blow. Meanwhile, Soyeon rushes over to Jinsu, helping him to his feet. Jiho, still smirking, insists that Leon is merely a mortal and begins conjuring a barrage of debuffs against him. Jinsu, feeling a knot of anxiety in his stomach, thinks to himself that even his majesty might struggle to overcome such a mountain of debuffs stacked against him. Leon strides toward Jiho, each step resonating with the weight of historical legacy as he begins to conjure even more formidable buffs. Jinsu watches in astonishment, understanding that Leon possesses a power beyond what any ordinary demon or human could ever attain. He is a legend of overwhelming might. As they stand face to face, Jiho bellows that he embodies the destruction of all life. Leon, however, remains unfazed, calmly asserting that he is the harbinger of Jiho's destruction alone. They clash, pouring every ounce of strength into their battle. Meanwhile, in the congested streets of Japan, cars are tightly packed together, and a restless crowd begins to stir, demanding answers about when the roads will finally reopen. The control team continues to reassure them that it will just take a little more time. An impatient man, growing increasingly anxious as the news remains silent, turns to his wife and suggests, "Maybe we should just walk." But before he can finish his thought, a loud bang reverberates through the air outside. Instinctively, the parents rush to shield their child, anxiously asking if he's all right. Haruto, the young boy, gazes out the window and excitedly tells his parents, "Look, there are people fighting in the sky." His father glances up, a mix of curiosity and concern crossing his face. Are they even human? He wonders aloud. Meanwhile, chaos unfolds in the city as two formidable beings clash above, their fierce battle shaking the very foundations of the buildings and sending waves of panic rippling through the streets below. With a wild laugh, Jiho charges toward Leon, ready to unleash his next attack. Leon calmly activates the Divine Sword opening, proclaiming that the Divine Sword of Extreme Radiance will never accept despair. Upon completing a quest, 3 sacred items are bestowed: armor, a magic spear, and the Holy Sword of Radiance. This raises an intriguing question. What exactly is the Grail Guardian's Holy Sword? The Grail Guardian, inheritor of the Heart of the Lion, ascended to demigod status to safeguard the Holy Grail. Yet the Lionheart King does not merely embody divine power. He executes the will of the gods. His sword, forged by Hedo, tempered in the flames of Patos, and infused with the light of Ariana, is further blessed by numerous deities. Lionheart strikes the monster with a holy sword, its brilliance radiating like the pinnacle of light. Caught off guard, the monster snarls in disbelief, questioning how a mere human can contain so many gods within him. Desperate to end the battle before it spirals out of control, the creature unleashes its fury. Yet, the glory of the lion remains eternal, unyielding in the face of darkness. The immense energy radiating from Leon stuns the monster, sending ripples of chaos across the battlefield. Yet, the creature grins, sensing that Leon has grown significantly weaker. It dawns on him that the land lacks the faith that fuels Leon's power. Leon, convinced that this monster is the head of the cockroach's stubbornly difficult-to-kill, wears a smug expression as he confronts it. "Even if I'm weaker," he declares, "you're still not stronger than me." His words strike a nerve, igniting fury in the monster, which retaliates by unleashing a barrage of spells at Leon. But Leon remains unfazed. In a moment of clarity, he strikes with his blade almost. As Leon slices into the monster's flesh, it narrowly dodges his strike. The battle rages on, and the monster taunts Leon, questioning why he would squander his precious divine power. But Leon has reached his limit. With a fierce determination, he stomps the monster's face into the ground. In a surge of fury, the monster unleashes a blood-tinted wave, sending Leon crashing aside. Yet, even in its rage, the monster realizes it cannot defeat Leon alone. It calls forth a horde of beasts to aid in the fight. Leon, however, can't help but scoff at the absurdity of it all. This monster truly believes a pack of foolish beasts could turn the tide in its favor. Leon is determined not to let him escape this time. As he unleashes the beasts, the monster requires just a bit more time to complete his transformation into a demon. He commands his monstrous troops to charge at Leon, but out of nowhere, Yappy locks onto the enemies and obliterates them with a charged particle cannon, catching the top demon completely off guard. Just then, Beatrice rolls in to provide support, conserving precious mana when it's needed most. Meanwhile, Hari and Beatrice arrive eager to assist their majesty. The monster, upon seeing Leon's team, is shaken to its core. Memories flood back to just 4 months ago, when it first laid eyes on the king of Lionheart. It can hardly believe that Leon has managed to assemble an entire army in the blink of an eye. It was as if Leon conjured the command from thin air. Without hesitation, Leon Lionheart rallied his team, urging them to unleash their full might against the enemy. Amidst the chaos, Beatrice turned to Leon, confessing that the very fate they had dreaded had come to pass. As she gazed upon the sea of fallen demons, a wave of sadness washed over her. The demon's sword had slipped through their grasp, leaving her with a heavy heart. In the past, the trainees, fueled by high spirits and a fierce desire for victory, successfully vanquished all the monsters summoned by the demon's sword. However, they were unable to prevent its master, Lord Akasha, from slipping away. Spotting Leon's sinister grin, Beatrice quickly inquires if he has a backup plan in case Akasha manages to escape. With a confident smirk, Leon reveals that he already holds a powerful bargaining chip, Lord Akasha's severed arm. He asks Beatrice if that's sufficient for her to summon a gate, and she eagerly embraces the mischief, confidently assuring Leon that it can definitely be done. Soon, the demon will discover that home is no longer where the heart is. The two royals share a villainous laugh that reverberates across the battlefield, casting a dark shadow over the scene. Meanwhile, everyone stands in awe of the spectacle, having never witnessed anything quite like it before. Hari is brimming with excitement that day, and her friends Suho and Jaehyuk are buzzing with pride over their impressive battle, certain she must have received a flood of interview requests. Eagerly, Hari asks if they've seen their majesty in Seoan. Meanwhile, outside, Soyeon senses that the challenge isn't over yet. Plo, concerned, doubts her ability to handle what lies ahead. However, she reassures Soyeon, insisting that she possesses the talent needed to defeat the one she seeks. Having once possessed the power of the Archduke Demon of Sloth, he can now bestow that power upon his child. Soyeon has already sacrificed her soul, leaving her with nothing else to offer Plo. Yet, Plo demands nothing in return if it means eradicating those vile demons. Just then, Leon Lionheart arrives, cautioning Seon against crossing a river from which she cannot return. Soyeon questions Leon, asking if he wants her to give up or seek revenge. Leon quickly denies it, explaining that he is known as the Avenger, a title bestowed upon him by the very divinity of revenge. For nearly 2 centuries, he has fought alone, overcoming the seemingly impossible. Meanwhile, Plo encourages Seon to learn from Leon, the man who has avenged not just citizens and comrades, but his entire nation and world over the course of nearly 2 centuries. That man had somehow triumphed against the impossible. Leon, no stranger to the allure of revenge, cautions against its seductive promise. He explains that while revenge may appear sweet, the path to it is often a chilling one. If seeking vengeance requires sacrificing everything, then it ceases to be true revenge. It will consume her very soul. He urges her to tread carefully and not to underestimate the consequences, for even those who betray the divine manage to preserve their souls. He tells her that the path she's contemplating will ultimately lead to a vast emptiness. Instead of losing herself in despair, she must confront her flaws. He declares that the conclusion of her quest for revenge must start with her finding her smile again. Leon then asks her a poignant question. Who does she truly wish to take revenge on? Is it her father, the one who murdered her mother and friends, or herself for being chosen by the demon's sword? With a heavy heart, she admits that her true target is herself for succumbing to the allure of the demon's sword. Leon observes that she's unclear about her quest for vengeance, essentially making herself the victim while endlessly chasing her own tail. He reveals that the true target of her vengeance should be the Archduke Demon, urging her to first rectify her contract with the divinity of darkness before pursuing her revenge. His words strike her like a punch to the gut. 10 days later, the Demon Sword Raid Squad reunites, and the atmosphere is charged with tension. The group, including Kamiya, raises their voices in protest. They question why the Black Gate needs to be opened in Japan, and insist that the Demon Sword must be held accountable for the lives lost among their fallen comrades. However, more and more people find themselves siding with the Pantheon Guild. As the supposed architects of Japan's future, they struggle to comprehend how Pantheon could so callously abandon their own nation's hunters for the sake of profit. This man is determined to make the demon sword pay for every life it has claimed, and to reveal the true nature of Pantheon. He is eager to witness how the Lionheart King will navigate the chaos within the gate. As they step inside, the horrifying scenes chill them to the bone. Leon, driven to the brink of madness, is ready to gather every last one of them and force them into servitude. The stage is set, and anticipation hangs in the air as everyone awaits the performance of the King of Lionheart and the Pantheon Guild. A couple of hours ago, the atmosphere shifted dramatically in the Demon Sword's territory. Suddenly, a crimson window appeared, announcing that they had crossed into the Massacring Lord's domain, causing all stats to plummet to 80%. Shock rippled through the crowd as they grappled with the overwhelming downgrade. Leon attempted to calm the crowd, but it felt like trying to extinguish a wildfire with just a bucket of water. The list of effects was extensive, showcasing numerous buffs such as Legion reinforcements and War Knight enhancements. These included increased defense, fortified structures, large-scale reinforcements, boosts to bravery, lighter armor, and much more, all available when fighting alongside a War Knight. Leon was taken aback to discover that these buffs affected thousands of people. He knew he was strong, but even he hadn't anticipated this level of power. Harry then informed him that a quest had appeared, calling for their assistance to help the King of Lionheart defeat Lord Akasha. Energized by the challenge, they all prepared to confront the demon. Leon urged his teammates to absorb every ounce of experience they could, as this was their first venture into demon territory. Out of nowhere, the nightmare murder machine of Changju Gate, known as the Jogged Spinner Aser Yapi, suddenly appears, startling the unsuspecting man. Leon can't help but smile at the sight of the little guy, asking if everything is ready. He notices that Yapi looks significantly stronger than before. With a new formation, Yapi has even deployed a drone to scout for any anomalies, reporting back to Leon that it has detected enemy colonies nearby. Leon strides confidently toward the nearest settlement. Upon his arrival, a mere human has the audacity to ask who he is. The man's tone irks Leon, but he decides to let it go this time. The man quickly scurries off to fetch the village chief Baron. When Baron finally appears and realizes he's in the presence of King Lionheart, panic sets in, and he bolts in the opposite direction. Leon orders Yapi to handle the situation, and Yapi fires a shot directly at the gate, sending a jolt of fear through the onlookers. With the tension rising, Leon steps inside to confront the peasant who attempted to flee. The Baron, trembling, pleads for mercy. Leon reassures him, explaining that his sole purpose was to eliminate the demon, not to pose a threat. However, Hari Hevo interjects, reminding Leon that the Baron was once a sergeant in the Empire's army, a devil worshipper who collaborated with the notorious demon of massacre. Upon hearing this, Leon's fury reaches a boiling point. In the present, he learns that Baron was granted immortality in exchange for becoming a subject of Akasha. Yet, Baron insists he was deceived into this fate. Ultimately, everyone present has been enslaved by demons, condemned to live each day with the specter of death looming over them. The chief collapses to his knees, pleading with King Leon to save them and to forgive the foolish choices they made. Jahuk and Suho begin to feel sympathy for the unfortunate souls caught in this turmoil, but Leon remains unyielding, showing no sign of remorse. Disgusted, he confronts the chief, demanding to know how many lives have been lost because of his actions. The chief, defensive, insists he had no choice and claims he wouldn't have acted that way if Leon had been there to support him. Leon, unimpressed by this feeble excuse, chastises him for attempting to shift the blame for his own decisions. Whatever followed was merely the consequence of their own actions. Leon stood poised to deliver a severe punishment for their sins, but given their past as citizens of the merciful gods, he chose a different path, one that ignited a flicker of hope among the sinners. Yet, his decision was far from lenient. He sentenced them to a heavy penalty, binding them as serfs for the next 50 years, until Tatar, the divinity of judgment, deemed their time served. The old man writhes in agony, refusing to accept his fate as a serf, even pleading for death as a release. Yet, divine law dictates that this punishment must be upheld, leaving everyone with no choice but to obey Leon's command. With grim determination, Leon and his team press on, raiding every colony in their path and gathering a staggering 5,034 labor workers along the way. Sir Yapi delivers the urgent news to Leon. A demon army is on the way, likely led by Akasha's subordinates. The group buzzes with excitement, eager for a chance to showcase their newfound abilities in a real battle. However, Leon has a different strategy in mind. He decides to send the newly minted serfs to the front lines first. The serfs, taken aback by Leon's unexpected plan, are left in stunned disbelief at the thought of being thrust into the heat of battle. Even if it means sacrificing their limbs or facing the gruesome reality of their intestines spilling out, they must bring down the enemies before them. Leon declares that their value on the battlefield is measured by such sacrifices. However, the serfs challenge Leon's judgment, questioning whether he is truly being fair. They argue that they did not enlist merely to be thrown into the front lines as fodder for death. Leon explains that they have already accepted their punishment, and until it concludes, they must obey his every command. For now, they should forget all about freedom. Meanwhile, the demonic army arrives, bewildered to find the townspeople standing still. Confused by the scene, they shout at the townsfolk to return to their homes. In no time, Leon confidently leads the army of serfs who, despite their tears, march forward under his command to confront the demons. Initially, the demons misinterpret their resolve, preparing to wipe them out without hesitation. However, as the battle begins, they quickly realize the serfs possess an extraordinary strength. These are no ordinary townsfolk. They are the elite stormtroopers of the Lionheart Kingdom. As the frontliners stirred up chaos, Leon and his squad launched a surprise attack on the demons from the rear, swiftly eliminating the threat. Baron, still in disbelief, marveled at his own survival through the ordeal. Seryapi reported to Leon that they had taken down 3,243 enemies and rescued 300 hostages. Leon nodded in appreciation toward Beatrice, acknowledging her significant role in turning the tide of battle. Beatrice, ever the opportunist, proposed that Leon should surrender 30 demons from each rank, emphasizing that the higher the rank, the more valuable the prize. She believed it was wise to act quickly and secure the best of the lot before anyone else could stake their claim. However, Leon remained firm in his stance, insisting that the demons must be eradicated for good. Beatrice subtly suggests that having a few demons around could actually benefit her, providing more opportunities to open demon gates in the future. Her words resonate deeply with him. After pondering for a moment, Leon begins to warm up to the idea of hunting down even more demons. Just then, the black-haired man approaches with a request, mentioning that they need a few demons as well, given the sacrifices they've made. Leon, however, declines the request, questioning whether they can truly resist the demons' temptations. The guy isn't entirely convinced, but Leon ultimately agrees to let them take 3 demons that he has personally repaired. He leans into the cage, searching for the best candidates for the guys to toy with. Just as one small demon begins to hurl empty threats, Lionheart swiftly silences him with a quick chop, leaving no room for bravado. Leon cautions them about the demon's manipulative temptations, but he believes that his healing might mitigate some of its influence. He hands them 1 demon immediately, promising to eliminate the rest 2 days after their return and properly mend the others. As they begin strategizing their assault on the fortress, the black-haired man questions whether Leon intends to throw the serfs into the front lines once more. He makes it clear that they have already lost around 20 men, but then he drops a bombshell. They actually lost 900 in the last battle, leaving Leon utterly stunned. Leon quickly asks if that number includes the serfs, and in that moment, the black-haired man realizes just how dire humanity's future has become. Meanwhile, Lord Akasha receives the grim news that his call for help went unanswered. He no longer possesses the authority to command. He blames the orcs for the loss of their lord in the last battle, lamenting that his healing is progressing at a snail's pace due to Lionheart's relentless attacks. To make matters worse, his body is glitching severely as the vessel begins to awaken. In his desperation for a genius-level vessel, a name suddenly surfaces in his mind: Cheon Soyon. Leon Lionheart turns to Cheon Sayon, his gaze steady. "Do you truly want to save your father and take revenge the right way?" Without hesitation, she nods, fully aware of the risks involved, even if it means putting her life on the line. Leon offers her a gentle pat on the head, his expression softening. "Just remember to take care of yourself too," he advises, a hint of concern lacing his voice. Additionally, he presents her with an earring, not just any piece of jewelry, but a star iron artifact infused with the power of the dream divinity. This remarkable item possesses the strength to safeguard a person's mind. Beatrice had crafted it specifically as a gift for the trainees, fully aware of the challenging battles that lay ahead. Leon confesses to Soyon that if she fails, she risks becoming a vessel for the demons, leaving him no choice but to kill her. Despite the weight of his words, Soyon stands firm, assuring him that she won't hold any resentment. She chooses to trust him, just this once. With determination, Leon breaks down the gates and commands her to follow him. In an instant, he thrusts his golden blade into Lord Akasha's castle, sending the demon into a panic. Yet, Akasha is elated to spot Cheon Soyon, viewing her as his opportunity to turn the tide. He commands his minions to delay them for 5 minutes, intent on claiming his new vessel. As Soyon battles the minions outside, Akasha suddenly leaps at her from behind, brandishing the demonic sword. With fierce determination, Soyon confronts the Archduke demon, demanding the return of her father. Their clash ignites into a heated battle, each strike echoing with desperation and fury. But Akasha, driven by his twisted ambition, soon gains the upper hand. This deranged fiend is intent on using Soyon as the vessel for his perfect self, and he won't let her go easily. Suddenly, Sion hears her father's voice urging her to run, but Akasha sneers, declaring it's too late for that now. In an instant, he seizes control of her, fully taking over her body. He understands just how strong she could have become if left unchecked. While Akasha mourns the loss of his old essence, he revels in the thrill of possessing a brand new, powerful form. Now, all Akasha desires is to escape and regain his power, but Leon has other plans. He's determined to end this once and for all. Without hesitation, a fierce battle ignites between Leon and Akasha. Akasha revels in every moment, fully embracing the potential of his new body. With the sword techniques of all the vessels he has possessed stored in his mind, he is a formidable opponent. She understands that Leon is merely human, yet his skills are sharp enough to rival those of a demon. Leon bursts into laughter, taunting Akasha by pointing out that, despite her extensive training in sword techniques, she has yet to master a single one, just as he expected from a parasite. Furious at his arrogance, Akasha snaps back, reminding him that he is just a mere human who has lived for only 300 years. With a furious swing of her demon sword, she attacks him. Yet, Leon remains as calm as ever, remarking that she has even stolen the weaknesses along with the techniques. In an instant, he slams her to the ground and pins her beneath his foot. Akasha taunts him, questioning whether he truly intends to kill his beloved knight. Leon swiftly silences her, asserting that his sense of justice remains unwavering. With determination, he raises his blade, poised to strike Akasha with all his might. Meanwhile, he has Soyeon pinned beneath his boots, as the demon within her struggles desperately to provoke him. The demon taunts him, questioning whether he truly has the courage to kill his beloved knight. For a moment, Leon is at a loss for words, yet his blade remains steady, unwavering. The demon attempts to turn the tables, branding Leon the real monster, but Leon swiftly dismisses that absurdity. With conviction, he declares, "I am no monster. I am the king of the Lionheart." With those words, his energy surged, enveloping his sword in a brilliant golden glow. As he drew closer to striking both the demon and Soyeon, he suddenly changed course. Instead of delivering a fatal blow, he aimed for the earring that had been shielding her from demonic control. In a shocking turn of events, the once fearsome Lord Akasha finds himself shackled like a pitiful slave, utterly at the mercy of Beatrice and Plo. Beatrice kicks off the conversation with a sharp, snarky remark, and Plo eagerly chimes in, both reveling in the moment far too much. Akasha sits there stunned, his jaw nearly dropping to the floor as he realizes this isn't just a random twist of fate. It's the Lionheart gods orchestrating their plans from the shadows. It turns out that Soyeon had intentionally allowed Akasha to possess her body, and the plan unfolded perfectly. Beatrice chimes in, stating that there's no way she could refuse Leon's request. Meanwhile, Plo casually remarks that capturing the soul of an Archduke demon is more than enough to satisfy everyone involved. Amidst the conversation, Soyeon, clearly not in the mood for idle chatter, cuts in and requests to leave without wasting another moment. Beatrice, noticing her temple saint looking utterly exasperated with the situation, decides to let her go without any fuss. Meanwhile, Plo watches her saint walk away, unable to shake the thought that her saint is quite peculiar, especially for the way she manipulates their dreams in such an outrageous manner. Lord Akasha seethes with rage, his frustration palpable as he feels completely overlooked. In a desperate bid for attention, he bellows at Soyeon, urging her to accept him. He promises her unimaginable power, the kind that could obliterate anything in her way, especially appealing to her insatiable thirst for strength. Soyeon, unfazed, casts him a disdainful side-eye before striding forward and delivering a powerful punch straight to his face, leaving a noticeable dent. The impact is enough to make Beatrice proud, and even Plo chimes in with praise, noting how Soyeon has finally put more weight into her legs and back. From Akasha's perspective, Soyeon is practically worthless, earning her a merciless kick straight to the head. Later, Soyeon finds herself beside her father's bed, dozing off in the chair. She is stirred awake by the gentle pat of his hand on her head. Tears immediately fill her eyes, and without a second thought, she wraps her arms around him in a tight embrace, clinging to him as if she never wants to let go. After a moment, Soyeon pulls back slightly and asks what her dad plans to do next. He expresses a desire to atone for everything he has done, even if he isn't entirely to blame. Yet, the memories cling to him like haunting nightmares. His first step toward healing is to visit the Pantheon Guild, hoping to find a path to redemption. Soyeon is hesitant about the idea, but she blushes slightly as she reveals that she was chosen by a divinity. In exchange for the Archduke Demon's soul, she received permission to wield divine authority. Now, she hopes her father will return to the guild and reclaim his position as guildmaster, while she takes on her own responsibilities within the Pantheon Guild. He gives her a knowing look and asks if that's everything or if there's more on her mind. Soyeon blushes once more, and in that moment, her father realizes just how much his daughter has matured. Outside, Leon sits peacefully, savoring his tea and the tranquility around him, until Grandpa Cheon approaches, breaking his moment of calm. When asked about his recent activities, the old man reveals he has been visiting the hospital for the past few days. Curiously, he inquires what brings Leon to this place. Leon replies that he has some errands to run, specifically checking if Soyeon's father still possesses any soul imprints or remnants of the former demonic human sword techniques. If he does, the path to purifying his soul will be fraught with challenges, and Leon must determine if it's a journey he can truly endure. The old man expresses concern that the souls of other demonic swordsmen might still be hidden within. Leon responds, noting that there are no apostles left in this world to guide those lost souls. Upon hearing the gravity of the situation, the old man bows deeply, expressing his heartfelt gratitude to Leon for rescuing his son and granddaughter, Soyeon. He promises to do anything His Majesty requests in return. Leon, however, responds with a calm demeanor, stating that he wouldn't mind having an extra hand in eradicating evil from the world. Grandpa Cheon is eager to swear brotherhood with Leon for the greater good, even offering to let Leon take the title of elder. This stings Leon slightly, as the old man's societal standing hardly qualifies him to be called a brother. With pride, Grandpa Cheon declares himself a member of the 37th generation of the esteemed Cheon family. In response, Leon playfully suggests that, if he truly wants to be considered his brother, perhaps he should convert to their faith. Grandpa Cheon readily agrees, even planning to bring along other guild members for the conversion. However, Leon hesitates when it comes to the sword brotherhood aspect, feeling that convincing the old-timers will be a challenge. After a moment, Grandpa Cheon inquires if Leon intends to leave. Leon simply replies, urging him to enjoy the reunion after 4 long years apart. A few moments later, Leon feels a stirring deep within his soul, signaling that it's time to enlist the serfs in their quest to slay giants. In the forest, a bald-headed giant nonchalantly picks his nose, oblivious to the group watching him in stunned silence. As his companions gawk in disbelief, Leon remains composed, estimating the giant's height to be around 9 meters. Days later, after their victory over Lord Akasha, Hari and the other trainees are swiftly promoted to become Leon's official knights of the kingdom, ready to embark on their very first real mission. Leon assigns his newly minted lackeys the daunting task of defeating the giant using only serfs. Jaehook, a member of Leon's class, hesitantly interjects, questioning whether the serfs are merely intended to serve as a distraction for a more substantial attack. However, Leon's response is unwavering. He insists that they must take down the giant solely with the serfs. Jaehook's mind reels at this absurdity, especially when Leon casually mentions that the literature claims such a feat has been accomplished before. Seeing the expressions on their faces, Leon can only sigh at how the Earthlings cling to their outdated logic. Determined to guide them, he decides to demonstrate the proper approach before their actual trial round, only deepening everyone's anxiety. And just like that, they find themselves in the forest, ready to face the odds stacked against them. Soho's mind is preoccupied with doubts, pondering that the serfs are likely no more than D-rank hunters at best. Just then, the audacious Serf Bill, attempting to project confidence, turns to Leon and asks how they plan to pull this off. Leon, momentarily lost in thought, begins to read aloud from Sagradas' theory. He explains that if a giant's health is approximately 3,000 and a serf armed with a dagger has an attack power of just 1, then if the serfs strike 1,000 times, they could indeed inflict damage on the giant. With 2,000 strikes, he would bleed out, and 3,000 strikes would surely bring him down. Leon couldn't help but smirk. It was actually a pretty solid plan when you looked at it from the right angle. If each serf managed to stab the giant at least 6 times, the colossal brute was bound to hit the ground. Meanwhile, Bill stood frozen, like a fish out of water, utterly stunned by the audacity of it all. Even now, Leon is deep in thought, calculating how 500 people might manage to deliver a staggering 3,000 stabs in total. If they fail, it could very well mean their doom. The onlookers behind him are left speechless, coming to the grim realization that their so-called king might be leading them straight to the slaughterhouse. Bill, in particular, understands that this moment is likely fate catching up to him after his 50-year quest for atonement. Without a moment's hesitation, Bill charges forward like a wild beast, determined not to become Leon's plaything. Just then, J-Hook notices a sudden 20% buff for all serfs. In an instant, Bill's overconfident sprint backfires spectacularly as the giant, faster than anyone anticipated, crushes him like a mere insect. Leon and his crew stand frozen, their jaws nearly hitting the ground in disbelief. Leon can hardly fathom that this incompetent fool didn't manage to land a single blow. Suddenly, J-Hook urgently informs Leon that their buff has inexplicably surged from 20 to 20.001%, leaving everyone bewildered. In that moment, Leon connects the dots and realizes that this so-called Bible's 20% buff indicates the giant has absorbed a staggering 200,000 units of blood. Leon erupts into a madman's laughter, reveling in the mysterious power bestowed upon him by Sir Gratis. When the moment for explanations arrives, he simply gestures to the group, offering them a stark choice: either face their demise or take down the giant if they wish to survive. After a grueling struggle, the group miraculously manages to bring the giant crashing down, though the victory comes at a heavy cost, claiming the lives of several brave souls in the process. This victory significantly empowers the serfs, boosting their attack power against giants by an astonishing 20.0044%, and this enhancement is now permanent. Leon closes the book with a sense of satisfaction, reflecting on the immense effort Sir Gratis must have invested blood, sweat, and tears into crafting this masterpiece. Meanwhile, Hari and J-Hook stand in stunned silence, their jaws nearly grazing the ground in disbelief. Hari, aware of the 50-year repentance period imposed on the serfs, hesitates before asking if it's truly right to condemn them to such meaningless lives. Without missing a beat, Leon responds that God must admire her innocence, momentarily flustering her. However, he quickly shifts the tone, bluntly stating that Lionheart's serfs are not like ordinary humans. To drive his point home, Leon seizes an old serf and begins to torture him, demanding a confession of the sins he committed when he was still human. Without further ado, the old man confesses to a series of horrific crimes. He killed a man, violated his wife and daughter, devoured their flesh, and offered their remains to demons. Leon, with a chilling curiosity, probes further, asking which of these heinous acts the old man enjoyed the most. The response is chilling. The old man viciously admits to sacrificing young children as offerings to the demons of massacre, relishing the experience with a twisted sense of pleasure. Leon is hurt enough. With a powerful kick, he sends the old bones flying, delivering a harsh reality check to everyone present. J-Hook and Suho are ignited with fury, eager to send the old freak straight to hell in that very moment. Meanwhile, Leon reflects on the nature of humanity, explaining that even those capable of good can still commit evil, rendering them undeserving of life. The reason they are given a chance to repent is that they are not demons yet. In addition, Leon promises his knights 500 serfs each and presents a formidable challenge. Whoever defeats the giant with the least amount of damage will earn the title of Knight Captain. While this proposition sends the serfs into a frenzy, the final results eventually come in. Not one to take bold risks, Hari successfully kept 88 serfs alive, while J-Hook's ineffective orders led to chaos, leaving him with only 32. Next was Suho, but it was clear this mission wasn't suited for him. His blessing simply wasn't the right fit for commanding serfs. Meanwhile, Soyeon emerged victorious, managing to protect 154 serfs. On the battlefield, she approached a young lad and asked if he intended to seek revenge for the person who had just fallen before him. The poor guy trembled like a leaf while Plo eagerly zeroed in on a target for revenge, collecting souls to strengthen himself. Back in class, Leon surveyed the final results with satisfaction and officially appointed Sean Soyeon as the Knight Captain. He praised her effective approach to executing revenge contracts involving the serfs. When asked about his thoughts, Leon expressed his pride in her, prompting Soyeon to break into a genuine smile. Leon suddenly turned to Suho, revealing that Sir Gratis had devised the serf challenge to reduce their numbers. However, Suho's blessing of light was never intended to control them. With a grin that could send shivers down anyone's spine, Leon confidently remarked that Suho had a remarkable talent for leading the serfs straight into the lion's den. Leon is even prepared to reward him with additional serfs to keep things moving. This completely throws Suho off balance. And just like that, Leon bursts into laughter, a sound that seems to echo endlessly. Meanwhile, at the Pantheon Naju, Leon and Demir Adal find themselves deep in thought, observing the seedling from Gonrar, which has inexplicably stopped growing. Demir noted that nurturing a treeman seedling in this unfamiliar environment was no simple feat. Leon pondered whether the issue lay with the soil itself. Demira confidently asserted that the land bore her blessing, but speculated that the disparity in divine power could be the real challenge. With that insight, Leon decided to infuse the treeman's seedling with Lionheart's magic. Demira considered that the properties at play might be a crucial factor in their endeavor. Leon's power, though formidable, lacks the purity needed for true mastery, burdened as he is by the influence of too many divinities. Demira wagers that her Grail Knight could have succeeded where Leon struggles, but this time, they're relying on luck. Hoping to gain insight, Leon thinks that a glimpse of his comrades in paradise might offer him the answers he seeks. However, Demira is resolute, refusing to allow Leon to linger in the realm of the dead for too long. Leon is confident he can manage the situation, but Demira throws him a curveball. She asks what he would do if Castilla wanted to spend the night together, or if Zarya invited him for a drink. Then, she piles on the pressure, questioning how he would respond if Gillingham challenged him to a duel, or if Roxley appeared, seeking to settle an old score. With a piercing gaze, she wonders if Leon can truly turn his back on all those cherished memories. At first, it may appear to be just a brief visit, but a single second can easily stretch into an eternity, and by the third second, he might begin to feel an irresistible urge to linger. Such moments should only arise when there are no other options. Leon finally grasps this reality. Suddenly, Beatrice catches sight of him during his stroll after inspecting the sapling. Curiosity piqued, she asks, "What kind of power does it hold?" Leon reveals that this sapling is a gift from his old friend, Gunrar, the sage of the woods. He explains how Gunrar dedicated his life to nurturing this seedling, which will eventually grow into a saint tree, the very heart and soul of the forest. This is the sole way the treeman can bring new life into the world. With a wistful gaze, Leon expresses his hope for Gunrar's people to flourish in this land. The saint tree stands as the cornerstone of the Temple of Ermin, embodying the divinity of forest and tree. However, this means that the goddess Demira cannot descend and plant her feet upon the earth here. When Beatrice inquires about this, Leon explains that if Demira were to come down in all her divine glory, her power would be so overwhelming that it could wipe most demons off the map. Beatrice believed that divine strength stemmed from the size of one's faith. However, Leon argued that it actually hinges more on the nature of the god itself. Take, for instance, the lion heart within him, a saint tree that generates divine power effortlessly. This tree serves as an impenetrable barrier against demons, radiating a cleansing energy that repels any corrupted creature bold enough to draw near. It's no wonder that demons steer clear of the saint tree. Beatrice instantly recognizes the immense value of such power. An idea begins to form in her mind, knowing that demons often hide among humans. Before long, everyone gathers in the field, which is adorned with shimmering purple crystals. Leon cradles the seedling in his hands, carefully planting it in the soil before stepping back and leaving the rest to Beatrice. With a sense of determination, she takes the reins and dives into her work. Suddenly, a new gate erupts into existence, but this one is unlike any other, colorless and void-like. It radiates an unsettling energy that freezes everyone in their tracks. No one has ever encountered a gate so devoid of color, yet brimming with such raw power. Beatrice, sensing the gravity of the situation, warns Leon not to underestimate it. Resolute, Leon decides to investigate the gate himself, bringing only his elite squad along and instructing anyone below the Kingdom Knight rank to remain behind. As Jaehook and Suho struggle to comprehend the situation, the townsfolk are already offering their well wishes. In an instant, Leon's elite team is fully equipped and prepared to venture into the unknown. Moments later, Leon and his group approach the enigmatic gate, while the others pass through effortlessly. Leon is unexpectedly flung aside, discarded like yesterday's trash. From the very start, something feels amiss about this gate, and even those below the Kingdom Knight rank can sense it deep in their guts. It turns out this is a fluctuating gate. Leon can smell trouble from a mile away when it stubbornly refuses to let him in. Suddenly, the realization hits him like a ton of bricks. A copy of himself is already inside the gate, actively rejecting his entrance. Aside from that, Kanhari and the others manage to slip inside without a hitch. However, when she turns to check on Leon, he's nowhere to be found. Panic washes over her. This can't be happening again. But Beatrice quickly deduces that Leon must have been unable to enter for some reason. She decides to abandon the entire plan and get everyone out to uncover what's really happening. To their astonishment, they discover that there are individuals capable of manipulating the gates. Just then, Jaehook shouts that the gate is mere seconds from closing, sending everyone into a frenzy. Beatrice senses a shift in the gate's energy, as if it's on the brink of being consumed entirely. To make matters worse, Beatrice struggles to identify the strange mana emanating from the gate. Unfortunately, she can't hold on any longer and watches helplessly as the gate vanishes into thin air. Hanhari's heart races in panic at the sight of Queen Beatrice coughing up blood. It becomes clear that Beatrice's mana flow has been reversed in her desperate attempt to control the gate. She quickly turns to Yappy for his perspective, and he bluntly confirms that the gate has vanished. Jawhawk, stunned beyond belief, looks as if he might short-circuit from the shocking news. Just when things couldn't seem worse, trouble arrives early. An army of monstrous troops marches directly toward Leon's elite squad, who are far from prepared for this onslaught. To make matters worse, Yappy counts a staggering 5,354 beasts lurking nearby. Everyone scrambles onto their horses in a frenzy. Jayhawk glances back at Beatrice, who confesses that she has exhausted all her mana. To make matters worse, the gate has dropped them into a dire situation. Suddenly, Suho calls out to Hari, warning him of a mountain of enemies looming right in front of them. With Leon absent, they find themselves in a perilous corner. The ominous lurkers are poised to tear them apart, but not on Yappy's watch. It unleashes a railgun shot, but unfortunately, it fails to clear the threat. The situation spirals out of control. Just then, a pack of beasts leaps from their blind spot, but the King of Thunder responds with a furious downpour of his wrath, striking them down with relentless fury. Suddenly, an entire army loyal to the King of Thunder bursts onto the scene, ready to restore order and enforce divine military law. Their tightly organized charge plows through the monstrous horde, undeterred by their numbers. The leader, with an air of nonchalance, notes the powerful divine energy emanating from the area, though he confesses he doesn't recognize any of the individuals present. He then introduces himself with a flourish. "I am Gillingham, God the Grail Knight of Ultima, the god of heaven and thunder." For the moment, he suggests they find a safer location. Later, gathered around the bonfire, Gillingham cuts to the chase and asks who they truly are. He turns to the Knight of the Divinity of Steel and the Blacksmith, noting that he senses a divine power akin to Sarantak. Beatrice steps forward to explain that they traveled directly from the frontiers due to escalating concerns, but their journey was hindered by the demons. Beatrice inquires about the true nature of the situation. Sensing he can trust them, Gillingham reveals the troubling news. Sir Vulcanus has vanished, and the Archduke of Greed has begun to sow chaos following the battle at the Landolkey Plains. Demons are now advancing deep into the kingdom. He also mentions that the Lionheart King has rallied elves, tree men, dwarves, and other worldly beings to unite against this growing threat. The demon invasion rages on, and the knights are tirelessly gathering the kingdom's survivors. Beatrice quickly realizes the severity of the situation and urges Hari to discreetly check the quest window, careful not to attract the attention of any knights. As Hari peeks, he gasps and exclaims that all the worlds are blocked off, deepening their crisis. Meanwhile, Gillingham reflects on his treatment of his brothers and sisters during their long journey, acknowledging that he hasn't been as kind as he should have been. He promises them a chance to rest until dawn. As morning breaks, Hari and the others set out, their breath taken away by the sight of a magnificent castle rising majestically before them. Gillingham proudly welcomes them to the last shrine of humanity, the Pantheon, leaving them in awe as they realize they are about to meet the legendary Lionheart King they had only heard whispers of. It is now the 63rd year of Leon Lionheart's reign. A formidable demon malice had emerged, but by the following year it was nothing more than a memory. Yet, the demon art of chaos would ultimately seal Leon Lionheart's fate. In a clash of unimaginable scale, 980,000 demon worshippers faced off against 1,330,000 soldiers, with the fate of the Empire resting in the hands of its 13 electors. Among the fallen were Manan, the Grail Knight of the Divinity of Sea and Waves, and Killian, the Grail Knight of the Goddess of Life and Fertility. The battle claimed around 30,000 knights from the 14 kingdoms, along with a staggering 270,000 soldiers and 10,000 knight-errants. In total, 22,700 lives were lost from both the Empire and the Kingdom. During the winter of the 66th year, the second raid against the demon army unfolded, resulting in the Empire's devastating fall, the destruction of the Elven Forest, the massacre of the Mountain Dwarves, and the collapse of the East Sky Kingdom. The Lionheart Kingdom lies in ruins, with only 1 out of 10 regions still intact. In the 85th year of King Leon Lionheart's reign, the kingdom descends into decline, and the legendary knight finally ascends to the Pantheon. Meanwhile, Jayhook and Suho lend their support to the remaining soldiers. As they work, Beatrice and Hari ponder their uncertain future. Beatrice recalls Sir Gillingham's words about Leon's promised return after the battle, leaving their plans unchanged for the time being. Determined to uncover Sargunra's secret of seedlings, she sets her sights on visiting the sages of the forest. Meanwhile, Yapi takes on the responsibility of patrolling to gather valuable intel, while Hari contemplates whether she should lend a hand like her brother. Not long after, Hari finds herself dismissed from the labor work, surprised to discover just how elevated the Saintess's status truly is. Undeterred, she continues on her path, likely making her way toward the temple. As she gazes at the seemingly endless stairs, the thought of using a horse crosses her mind, but she quickly dismisses it, knowing it would only earn her a lecture. Just then, a carriage rolls by, and a girl inside spots Hari walking alone. Though Hari has no idea who she is, the girl radiates the same divine power as Leon. With a warm smile, she apologizes for startling Hari and invites her to join her. Oblivious to the fact that carriages can ascend the hill, Hari steps aboard. The caramel-haired beauty beside him chuckles, noting that first-timers in the Pantheon often lack knowledge about the carriages at the base. Feeling a bit awkward, Hari offers his thanks. After a brief pause, the stunning woman introduces herself as Anjak Pertisha, the Lady of Ariana. In turn, Hari reveals his own identity, declaring himself the Sanctus of Pedos and Poma. Anjak shakes his head in disbelief, remarking that carrying the weight of two gods at once must be an immense burden. Touched by his understanding, Hari's eyes well up with tears of gratitude. Moments later, they arrive at the Pantheon safely, and Hari turns to Anjak, expressing heartfelt thanks for the ride. However, Anjak insists on accompanying her inside. As the soldiers greet Anjak with reverence, calling her the Great Saintess, Hari's jaw drops in shock. In an instant, she bows deeply, startling both Anjak and her soldiers. Anjak quickly reassures everyone that they are all equal under the gods. This moment triggers a memory for Hari, reminding her of how Leon constantly drilled into her that everyone else was beneath him. When Anjak inquires about what's troubling her, Hari reveals how Leon has meticulously maintained the social order. Upon learning that Hari has a personal connection with Leon, Anjak deduces that she must hail from a prominent temple. There's no doubt in her mind. She can sense a powerful divine energy simmering within Hari. As Hari grapples with the revelation that Anjak holds a high-ranking position, Anjak unexpectedly turns to her with a request. She wants Isabel. A nearby maid quickly interjects, informing them that Isabel is in her room, absorbing moon energy. Anjak instructs everyone to prepare for the ritual and urges them to remain calm. The news sends a wave of excitement through the maids, sparking their hopes that their king is returning in triumph. Anjak, however, quickly urges them to focus, reminding them to care for the weary king who has been out there vanquishing countless evils. This revelation strikes a chord with Hari, who begins to suspect that it might be Leon from the past, summoned by the gate. Curiosity piqued, she wonders how he will behave upon his return. Without hesitation, Hari follows Anjak. Suddenly, an announcement echoes through the castle. Leon Lionheart has arrived. The Bloody Night King has returned, having vanquished the evil beings. As he steps inside, Hari feels a chill run through her. She is finally face to face with her king. But this is not the Leon she remembers. Before her stands a figure transformed fear and terror given flesh, like an apostle of death. The atmosphere thickens with an overwhelming sense of bloodlust. Suddenly, a hand lands on Hari's shoulder, sending a jolt of fear through her. Turning, she finds a honey-eyed girl named Isabel, who chides Leon for his frightening antics. A maid hastily interjects, reminding Isabel that she stands before the king. Unfazed, Isabel retorts, "I am the king's sister-in-law and Dina's first hunter." That revelation takes the wind right out of Hari's sails. Isabel nudges Leon, urging him to drop the serious act and join the ritual. The golden bathtub awaits, and Anjak invites Leon to sink into its depths. As Leon begins to strip off his clothes, Hari's jaw drops in shock at the sight of dark bruises marring his skin. When asked about it, Leon casually explains that it's the result of tearing the demons of pursuit apart while they were still alive. Their agonizing screams cling to his flesh like a curse, but he assures them they can't actually harm him. Isabel observes that it certainly looks painful, but Leon dismisses her concern with a wave, seemingly unfazed. Deep down, he feels he has sinned greatly against the goddess of purity. As Leon's ritual unfolds, the doors swing open, and in strides Karina Dragania, the commander of the Northern Army and the Duchess of the Dragania Duchy. She is also Leon's daughter. With a bright smile, she congratulates him on his recent victory in battle. Her unexpected arrival takes everyone by surprise, momentarily disrupting the solemn atmosphere. the Duchess of Dragania calmly announces that the military from the northern region has officially declared its withdrawal from the alliance, effective immediately. Leon, visibly displeased, firmly opposes this decision. Meanwhile, Karina interjects, emphasizing the significance of the northern military to the alliance. If they pull out, she warns, there's no way to avoid a significant weakening of our overall forces. Leon feels a sense of futility in remaining here. Karina informs him that the continent is already in ruin since the capital has fallen. Even if they were to rally all the serfs, they would still be far from their former strength of 30,000 men. Meanwhile, the enemy boasts over 10 million soldiers, a number that continues to grow with each passing day. Driven by desperation, Karina musters the courage to ask the War Knight, the one who commands all the knights and serves as the agent of Pantheon, whether they truly stand a chance of winning this war. Leon, taken aback, demands to know what she is suggesting. With a heavy heart, Karina reveals the grim reality. The duchy lies in ruins, reduced to ashes following the empire's collapse. 30,000 men have been left homeless, their families shattered. She also reveals that she is carrying a child and shares that everyone is still struggling in the northern region. This fuels her determination for vengeance. She believes they all deserve it, even if she can't slay every demon herself. She vows to eradicate every last demon that has insulted the fallen and dared to claim their land as their own. Leon, feeling the weight of her words, hesitantly asks if Karina resents him for targeting the enemy's main forces instead of focusing on protecting the duchy. To comfort him, Karina reassures Leon that he acted as he needed to, emphasizing that the entire kingdom holds greater importance than just the duchy. When he inquires further, Karina reveals her thirst for vengeance by exposing the mark, a powerful testament to her resolve. The shocking revelation leaves Leon utterly stunned, his face contorting with an indescribable mix of disgust and disbelief. He shouts at Karina as she reveals the shocking truth. The entire northern region has signed a contract with the god of revenge, naming her the Grail Knight of Ventarsis, the Duchess Dragania, and the commander of 30,000 Avengers. Leon swiftly kicks her out, disowning her without hesitation. Meanwhile, Karina stands firm, declaring that her life is no longer just about survival. Isabel, concerned, questions whether that was truly the right decision. Leon, resolute, replies that it's too late now. Karina has sealed her fate by signing that contract. As the tension hangs in the air, Isabel resumes her work, diligently extracting the darkness clinging to his flesh. Leon questions whether he made the wrong choice, and Isabel quickly denies it, though she's taken aback by his inquiry. After all, this is the same Leon who once kidnapped her younger sister, the Priestess of Purity, a move they both secretly desired. As she tends to him, Isabel probes, wondering why he isn't behaving like the man who once commanded the northern military to carry out such an audacious act. Amidst the unfolding events, Leon suddenly shifts his focus to the mysterious visitor, leaving Hari completely taken aback. Meanwhile, Yappy is engrossed in watching the workers discuss the star iron. However, they find themselves lacking materials and in desperate need of a new star. The workers exchange glances, pondering whether the great Saintess has offered any insights on the matter yet. Yappy swiftly records a video of the conversation, planning to analyze their movements later. Meanwhile, the blacksmith is deeply engrossed in crafting tools, his focus unwavering until he suddenly senses something amiss. He detects the presence of a rat nearby, only to discover it's the little Yappy. The blacksmith inquires about his identity, but Yappy playfully urges him to lighten up a bit. Suddenly, Yappy unleashes glowing ropes, revealing that the source of the magic is actually a cute little priest. The sight cracks the blacksmith up, much to Yappy's annoyance. The blacksmith chuckles and explains that there's no reason for them to fight, as they both serve the same divinity. He introduces himself as Antok, the Grail Knight of Steel and Master Blacksmith, and inquires if Yappy is familiar with Antok, the guardian of the mines. Afterward, temporary shelters are established for the trainees on the outskirts of the city. Hari returns to check on her people, bringing along some food. Suho's face lights up at the sight of her. She opens her picnic basket, explaining that the temple provided her with everything she needed for her work. When asked, she casually reveals that she also met King Leon. Everyone stands in stunned silence until she clarifies, "It's Leon from this gate, not yours." Harry quickly asks if they've gathered any intel. J-Hup replies that the capital has been under enemy control for some time, along with several other locations, leaving this city as the last stronghold. However, recalling the final battle she heard about from Ventarsis, Hari wonders if this gate might be linked to that conflict. J-Huck wishes they could somehow decipher the quest. Meanwhile, Suho inquires if anyone can tap into their divinities. While the divine laws are accessible, their connections feel tenuous at best. Everyone makes an attempt, but Suho's assessment rings true. It's a struggle. Suddenly, Sion remarks on the eerie silence that has settled around them. Just then, Jahuk notices wooden legs creeping into view, sending a chill down his spine. But before he can react, a treeman suddenly yanks the tank away, leaving the soldiers cornered and desperate. In that tense moment, a figure emerges. Roxley, the Grail Knight of Divinity of Sun and Judgment, Tadar, arrives on the scene. He also proclaims himself the judge of the Lionheart Kingdom, prepared to lay bare the sins of the guilty before his formidable presence. Hari and the others stand in stunned silence, utterly bewildered by the unfolding events. Later that day, they find themselves imprisoned and loaded into a van, their fate uncertain. Jahuk, however, is convinced that their chances of survival are slim to none. Suddenly, the mustache man snaps at Jahuk to be quiet, catching him completely off guard. Hari speculates that they might be on their way to the execution site. However, Jahuk is aware of the situation. They have the option to become serfs first, as they aren't demon worshippers. Soyeon quips that dying seems preferable to a life of servitude, and surprisingly, Jahuk finds himself agreeing. Suddenly, Hari feels the carriage tilting upward, a clear sign that they are approaching the Pantheon. The realization sends a jolt of panic through Jahuk, and he begins to cry uncontrollably, convinced that death awaits them. Just then, the doors swing open, signaling it's time for the prisoners to disembark, but Jahuk is in full meltdown mode, throwing a fit as fear consumes him. They find themselves summoned before Anjak, Isabel, Leon, Roxley, and Gillingham, an uncomfortable silence hanging in the air. Between them sits a tub of holy water, its surface glimmering ominously. Leon turns to Roxley, commanding him to throw the sinners into it. With a menacing glint in his eye, Roxley draws his blade and orders them to dive into the holy water. Jahuk, trembling like a leaf, can't help but wonder if they're about to be waterboarded or something equally terrifying. Roxley's harsh shouts send Jahuk leaping into action, quickly followed by Suho and the others. Leon reassures the group, stating that this band of beings isn't composed of demons, as their bodies show no signs of melting. Anjak supports this claim, noting that they all possess divine powers, further confirming their non-demonic nature. Gillingham chimes in, expressing his trust in their integrity as well. However, Roxley remains skeptical, aware that demons are notorious for their cunning tricks. He also believes that their king, Leon, is much closer to the gods, yet he remains oblivious to their true nature. Jahuk observes how everyone places unwavering faith in Leon, convinced he is incapable of error, a notion that fills him with unease. According to Gillingham's intel, there are two others, a woman who embodies the divinity of dreams and death, and another being from a different realm, blessed with the divinity of steel and blacksmithing. Together, they are revered enough to be called saints. After this, Leon resolves to take charge of the interrogations himself, instructing the others to step back. He softens his approach with Roxley, allowing him to take the lead on this one. By the king's command, they clear the hallway to create a private space for an audience with Hari and the others. Just as Leon begins to address Han Hari, Suho suddenly yanks her out of the water. However, the girl seems dazed, literally bowing in the holy water and proclaiming, "I am Han Hari." Suho shakes off Hari, urging her to drop the dramatic act. "It worked like a charm the first time," she protests, "and it wouldn't hurt to try again." He then calls for introductions, asking where they're from. The group hesitates, and this strikes a nerve with Leon. In a rush, they blurt out, "Seoul, South Korea," fabricating a story that it's a faraway nation. In a stunning display of divine power, the gods descend, their radiant forms illuminating the scene. They glance around, confusion etched on their faces as they assert that they do not recognize any of the mortals before them. Bewildered, they question why these individuals bear their blessings. Hito, his fury palpable, steps forward. "I remember every soul I've blessed," he declares, his voice low and menacing. "I won't stand for imposters among us." With a fierce intensity, he threatens, "Dare to deceive me, and I will tear your souls to shreds." Hari stands in stunned silence as Leon summons all the gods at once, especially after witnessing him vomit blood when appointing Seryapi. She can hardly fathom the extent of his power at his peak. With a serious expression, Leon reveals that he has arrested them all because the gods remain oblivious to their true identities. He demands to know who they are and how they ended up here. As the tension hangs in the air, Hari's mind drifts back to their first encounter. She begins to recount the story of her time spent with Leon, her heart racing with the memories of their journey together. Meanwhile, Beatrice searches for the tree, hoping to find the seedling Leon left behind. This connection suggests that Leon's desires resonate with those of the tree. Upon her arrival, the tree immediately recognizes Beatrice as the lady of the far future and reveals that the seedling originates from the realm of the dead, destined to grow only there. This is troubling news for Beatrice. Later, the tree elaborates that they must leave a gift behind, yet according to Beatrice, they are merely echoes of the past. If she can endure it, they contemplate offering their assistance, as it seems like the honorable choice. When asked, Beatrice reveals her intention to present it to the king of Lionheart. The tree consents to allow Leonheart to receive it, but it demands a sacrifice from a god and their saint. Meanwhile, Sir Yappy is dazzling everyone with his impressive skills, causing Antok and the others to stand frozen in awe. He is electrified, unleashing bolts of lightning in every direction. He continues to activate the third slot below, his polishing completion already at 62%, while multitasking at level 14. The lackeys are convinced that Yappy is unleashing his full speed, while he remains focused on polishing and processing without pause. With number 197, Yappy crafts a basic Lionheart breastplate and even manages to create replicas of the original. His astonishing feats make him appear truly remarkable. Sir Antok can't help but commend Yappy, calling him an incredible newcomer. Antok watches Yappy train, a nostalgic smile creeping across his face as memories of Leon's younger days flood back. Curiosity piqued, he asks Yappy if he knows Leon. With a proud grin, Yappy declares that Leon Dragonia is his partner in the fight against demons. This revelation sparks a fire in Antok. He suddenly yearns to join their cause. Antok reminisces about his past adventures with His Majesty Leon, recalling their pilgrimage together as old companions when he was just 30. The tale transports us to a small village on the outskirts of the kingdom, a place teetering on the edge of extinction due to a sudden orc ambush. In their moment of desperation, the villagers cried out for help, but only Gildas and Antok were close enough to answer the call, drawn by the village's remote location. It was during this time that he encountered Gunnar, a fellow traveler on a spiritual journey. Their battle against the relentless tide of orcs, many of whom were formidable warriors, stretched on longer than either of them had anticipated. That's when Antok remembers Leon appearing out of nowhere, poised to eliminate the vile green beasts. He recalls Leon as the most incredible fighter he had ever witnessed, so powerful that it was hard to believe he was half Leon's age. The way Leon swung his sword was nothing short of professional, effortlessly slicing through the great warriors before him. Later, Leon found himself surrounded by the remnants of orc flesh, repulsed by the grime clinging to his cheeks. It was then that Antok revealed he recognized that same potential in Yappy. With a hopeful glint in his eye, he asked if Yappy would like to become his disciple. A moment of silence hung in the air before Yappy erupted with excitement, bouncing up and down at the prospect of having Antok as his mentor. Yappy's disdain for mortals remains evident. Antok, curious, inquires if Yappy knows who he is. With a casual confidence, Yappy acknowledges the Grail Knight of Steel, but quickly reminds Antok that, at the end of the day, he's still just a mortal unable to compete with Yappy's flawless programming. This unexpected jab catches Antok off guard, but it also brings a chuckle to his lips. He can't help but find this little tin can's bravado amusing. Antok is eager to demonstrate his skills to Yappy. After the showcase, he returns to his crafting, with Yappy by his side. He confesses that he admires Yappy's flawless work, something he feels he can never replicate. Just as Antok hammers away at his project, Yappy quickly spots a mistake, warning that it could compromise the weapon's stability. Drenched in sweat, Antok reveals that he isn't merely constructing weapons. He's pouring his heart into every creation. Suddenly, he quickens his pace, reveling in the craftsmanship. It becomes clear that for him, this is more than mere labor. It's an art form, the art of steel shaped by the very essence of his soul, executed with flawless technique. Antok firmly believes that passion outweighs mere technique. Fueled by hard work and bursts of enthusiasm, he joyfully crafts a piece of armor. Watching him, Yappy suddenly realizes that Antok's skills might just be the key to creating Leon's armor, something he had been unable to achieve due to a missing 0.01%. Yappy notes that he lacks sufficient data, and this newfound insight could be crucial for his progress. Antok's interest is piqued, and he asks Yappy if he would consider becoming his disciple. Yappy quickly clarifies that his role is merely to observe the development. However, Antok interprets this as Yappy's reluctant acceptance of his offer, and he affectionately pats the little creature. Just then, Gillingham announces that Leon has invited Antok to meet him in the castle. At last, everyone gathers around a table, while Leon gazes thoughtfully out the window. Isabel bravely shatters the silence, suggesting that this should be the final grail. She turns to Knight Gillingham, asking if he would take on all the demons at King Leon's command. Without hesitation, Gillingham responds with a quick yes, inspired by his resolve. Isabel assures Leon that her sacrifice will pave the way for a brighter future. Leon nods in agreement, while the rest of the group remains shrouded in a heavy gloom. Isabel declared that she would bear all the sins, for now, until the final grail, where she would make the ultimate sacrifice. As she made her entrance, she admitted she never imagined she would commit such a sin. Leon felt a pang of guilt for putting her in this position, but Isabel reassured him, saying it was all right. After all, even a bastard who had taken her sister's innocence could still be a worthy king. Having lost their territorial ground to the demons, they were unable to perform the crucial ritual needed to obtain the final grail. The only way to acquire the coveted star iron was through that very grail. As Isabel raised her crossbow toward the sky, a profound realization washed over her. She no longer felt like the protagonist of this story. It seemed that the goddess of the moon and purity was not cut out for battle. Yet, for her devoted followers, Isabel had bestowed a unique power to those who endured lonely lives. Now, she channeled all her strength into the arrow, preparing to unveil her finest moment. That is the mark of a true archer, hitting the target every time. Yet, deep within her heart, she whispered an apology to the moon for what she was about to do. It was unfathomable for a moon saintess to strike down the very moon itself, an act deemed the greatest sin ever permitted by the goddess. With a surge of determination, she released the lightning arrow, sending it soaring into the sky, witnessed by the astonished citizens of the city below. In an instant, the arrow struck the moon, igniting the birth of the Milky Way. Gillingham stood frozen, his jaw slack in disbelief, struggling to comprehend the reality unfolding before him. At that moment, Leon called out to the great saintess Anjak, who unleashed her divine magic into the heavens. Gillingham observed as their strategy bore fruit, watching Anjak skillfully maneuver the pieces of the moon approaching them. Suddenly, without warning, Isabel collapsed into Leon's arms, coughing up blood. Her voice trembled as she gasped, "It hurts so badly." Despite her pain, Isabel revealed that Dina's kindness had halved the recoil. Gritting his teeth, Leon praised her sacrifice and vowed to shoulder her burden from that moment on. Suddenly, Gillingham redirected Leon's attention to the moon fragments, which appeared to be shifting direction. Anjak struggled to keep them in line. A powerful mana force was drawing the fragments toward it, and Anjak struggled to maintain control. Suddenly, it clicked for Beatrice. This was the same mana that had sealed the gate against them. The trajectory of the moon fragments had shifted, pulling them further away from their grasp. As Leon held Isabel tightly in his arms, the weight of her sacrifices ignited a fierce rage within him. He immediately commanded the formation of a squad to retrieve the fragment, resolute in his determination not to let the opportunity Isabel had created with her life slip away. Later, when the moon's pieces descended upon the earth, Antak commended their choice to come here, recognizing it as a far better use of their time than pursuing other paths. The retrieval squad tasked with recovering the moon pieces had finally arrived at the scene. Beatrice signaled and Yappy deployed the scouting drones. As a couple of the flying drones whirred to life, Antak couldn't help but feel intrigued by his disciples' tips and tricks. This curiosity, however, irked Yappy, who bluntly declared that Antak was merely a provider of technology, nothing more. Yappy remarked that Antak lacked the intelligence to call himself a master. This struck Antak as hilarious. He was genuinely impressed by the wit of this little tin can. With a chuckle, Antak noted that Beatrice must have sensed the unusual silence. It was highly unlikely the demons would let such an opportunity pass them by. Antak is convinced those freaks are lying in wait, poised to ambush them the moment they begin working on the moon fragment. Nevertheless, he joins forces with Yappy and the soldiers to extract the star iron. Suddenly, Yappy senses the enemy's presence, drawing closer with alarming speed. A horde of monsters comes rumbling toward them, just as Antak had predicted. He urgently informs Beatrice that they need more time, emphasizing the importance of holding the monsters at bay for as long as possible. He commands Yappy to initiate the takedown. In response, Beatrice steps forward, activating Lamontar's rage. The resulting explosive attack leaves Antak in awe, as even nobles rarely wield such powerful magic. Beatrice explains that the evolution of magic had to take a more destructive turn to counter the divine laws. However, she warns Antak to hurry, as more monsters could arrive at any moment. With urgency driving them, Antak and the others double their speed, working as if their lives depend on it. Just a few minutes later, Antak calls out that they've completed their task. But just as they begin to relax, something catches his eye. A fireball hurtles toward them from above. Stunned, Antok shouts for everyone to get out of the way. The entire group stands frozen, caught off guard, as a mysterious, cloaked figure observes the fireball crash into the ground with bone-rattling force. Yappy, known as Sir Spinna, immediately senses a monstrous presence nearby. To their horror, it reveals itself to be none other than the demon lord of wisdom and pursuit, Kalakael, the very same entity that once shattered Sir Jag Spinner's world. Kalakael ascends into the air just before the rumble, while Yappy swiftly shields Beatrice from the ensuing chaos. Yappy, report on the damages, she commands, her voice steady despite the turmoil. He responds quickly, his expression grave. 30 knights have perished, along with all the cavalry due to the ultimate activation of the divine law. The battlefield is a grim sea of fallen bodies, and Yappy struggles to even estimate the number of injured. Kalakael, the demon lord of wisdom and pursuit, sneers at the mortals before him, warning them not to even think about challenging an immortal like himself. This twisted being relishes in their despair, demanding they accept their fates. Antok, recognizing the caster of Friznar, notices the powerful demons gathered at Kalakael's side. He turns to Beatrice, seeking a plan. Beatrice suggests using a spell to connect them to a distant realm, but Yappy, with a hint of skepticism, insists that it won't work for any of them. Despite her reservations, she agrees, and Antok realizes they have no choice but to take down this scoundrel. Antok expresses his gratitude to everyone for their contributions to the gods and the kingdom, then strides ahead, leaving his comrades in a state of bewilderment about what is to come. He proclaims that the time has come to fulfill their oath to protect the kingdom, even if it requires the ultimate sacrifice. In that moment, everyone on the battlefield understands the weight of his words. It is a call to arms, a command that could lead to their demise. Yet, despite the grim reality, they make the resolute choice to follow Antok's lead. Antok nods in agreement with Yappy's assessment, but he emphasizes that sometimes what truly matters in life transcends mere odds. His god warns him against this decision, cautioning that most mortals would struggle to endure the consequences of his descent. Yet, Antok stands firm, declaring that he would have made the same choice for anyone, regardless of who they were. In a surprising turn of events, a god confesses to loving Antok for his unwavering faith and the vibrant passion for life that he exudes. Antok's entire being shines with a golden light, as if he has been immersed in molten gold. This is no ordinary glow-up. It's a divine transformation. This is the Grail Knight of Steel and Blacksmith, the kingdom's foremost artisan and protector of its mines, revealing his true nature. He once clung to hope as he forged a path toward the future, but now that hope has come to a standstill. There is no future for a blacksmith who has sealed his own fate. Yet, the rhythmic sound of the hammer striking the forge continues, for it is that very hammering that has forged whatever future remains. Amidst divine discord, Antok the blacksmith swears an oath upon the steel itself. Kalakael was taken by surprise. The transformation altered all artifacts into materials other than steel, effectively placing all steel under his dominion. In response, Antok summoned Heto's hammer. The demons had anticipated this move and erected a shield in advance, but it proved futile, merely resulting in a satisfying smash to the demon's face. As Kalakael knelt down, he couldn't help but admire the impressive power a mortal could wield in such a brief span of life. Meanwhile, Antok is astonished that the demon managed to block his attack without a single scratch. With that, Kalakael prepares to ignite the war that has yet to unfold. In the meantime, Beatrice inquires about Yappy's report, which reveals a progress rate of 86%. For Yappy, dragging things out is no issue. He's seen it all before. Beatrice calls out for any bright ideas to buy them a little more time, fully aware that the demons will catch on sooner or later. Yappy admits he has a plan, though its success rate is a shaky 2.7%. Undeterred, Beatrice decides to take those odds, declaring that while a mage typically relies on reason, tonight she's placing her faith in a miracle. Meanwhile, Kalakael admires the raw strength displayed as his opponent shatters all his spells with nothing but a hammer. He begins to understand why demons tremble at the mere sight of this world's strongest species. As Kalakael gazes at the so-called lowest Grail Knight, he can't help but ponder the true terror of the man at the top. After a moment of reflection, he concedes that their strongest knight might stand a chance against a demon lord. Yet he knows deep down that Antok himself still falls short of that mark. As Kalakael unleashes a barrage of spells, Antok stands firm, commanding steel to rise with Heto's anvil, his giant hammer gripped tightly in hand. "Your no-faith policy is what makes you so twisted," he spits out, a jab that clearly riles Kalakael. But before the demon can retaliate, Yappy crashes into the scene, initiating the self-destruction sequence with a force reactor core primed to explode. Antok cries out for Yappy to stop, but the die has already been cast. A massive explosion erupts on the battlefield, shaking the ground with a deafening roar. Walter, the Emperor and commander of the Silver Knights, stands amidst the chaos, haunted by the memories of those who brought his empire to ruin. These are the same demons that invaded his territory and shattered his world 2 decades ago, and now he fears that the end is upon them. 23 years prior, the Emperor summoned a demon monarch, sealing his own fate, and shortly after, every region fell under the control of these malevolent beings. While the Lionheart King rose to defeat the demon monarch's forces, that victory was merely the beginning of a much darker chapter. Even Walter believed that with the Lionheart King present, the demons would return more powerful than ever. But that was merely a false hope. Suddenly, they felt strange tremors beneath their feet. It wasn't a mana storm, it was a clear sign of an impending war. Meanwhile, the demon lord of wisdom and pursuit, Caligula, scoffs at his opponent's reliance on nuclear power, dismissing it as a threat that could never harm him. His subordinate interrupts, informing him of a newly opened gate, revealing that the explosion was merely a distraction. Yet, Caligula remains unimpressed, deeming the strategy foolish. After all, a small-range gate can only transport a handful of individuals, leaving the majority of the troops and knights behind to face their fate. Caligula's fury intensifies as he begins to cast a spell against his opponents. Suddenly, a spear hurtles through the air, intercepting his magic. Looking up, they see a vast army of armored soldiers from Leon's side charging forward. Without hesitation, Caligula retaliates, unleashing a devastating spell that severely injures the men, including Antok and Beatrice, who find themselves in a different territory. Antok's condition is dire. The attack has left a gaping hole in the upper part of his stomach, demanding immediate medical attention. Despite his grave injury, he urges Beatrice to make her way to the blacksmith. Upon their arrival, Sir Spinay grimly informs Antok that his life is slipping away. Antok, however, is already acutely aware of his fate. From the moment he was bestowed with this mortal fate, he sensed this day would come. As a steel knight forged from iron, he understood that his time was limited. With only one opportunity to pass on his legacy, he chose Spinney as his first and final apprentice, ready to impart a crucial lesson. While hammering away at his forge, Antok shared his last teachings with Spinney, recounting the tale of his journey. He spoke of his quest to find purpose, the fateful encounter with the future Lionheart King, and the invaluable lessons learned under a master blacksmith he could never hope to surpass. Though Antok never surpassed his teacher, the knights who wielded his swords and spears valiantly protected the kingdom. Even as his strength waned and his vision dimmed, Antok poured every ounce of his will and energy into the steel, determined to leave a lasting legacy. He urges Spinney to do the same, to infuse her will into the metal, forge weapons that safeguard the righteous, and shape a brighter future with each hammer strike. In the midst of this poignant lesson, Antok completes his latest creation, a testament to everything he has imparted. Moments later, Leon arrives just as Antok takes his final breath. He asks if Antok has any last words for his son, Aaron. But having taught with love and respect, Antok finds there is nothing more he wishes to say. Instead, he asks Leon to lift him so he can go out and meet his people one last time. The crowd is filled with sorrow, tears streaming down their faces as they witness their great leader in such a fragile state. Even in his final moments, Antok urges his people to care for the king. With those last words, he collapses in Leon's arms, lifeless. The people bow in deep respect and honor for the man they revered. Inside his tent, one of Leon's men approaches, informing him that Gildas is outside. After granting permission, Gildas and Galvaron enter, greeting Leon with royal deference. As a godfather, Leon pulls Galvaron close, insisting, "Just call me uncle." He then inquires about Aaron, but even after learning of his father's death, Aaron remains steadfast, just like his father. He couldn't abandon his scouting duties and was unable to come. Suddenly, Gunnar unexpectedly bursts into the tent, bringing surprise and joy to everyone present. Gildas quips about Gunnar's hefty weight as he makes his entrance, and the two engage in playful banter, teasing each other with light-hearted jabs. Leon can't help but smile as he reminisces about the days when they trained together, their laughter echoing in the air. He realizes that these old friendships are a true blessing. Though Antok has passed, they are rich with beautiful memories of him, so there's no reason to dwell in sadness. As he pours the wine, Leon muses that he always thought Gildas would be the first among them to go, a sentiment that Gunnar readily agrees with. As they continue to serve the wine, Leon reflects on Antok's final moments, filled with honor and glory. He urges them to send him off with love and respect, as true friends should. With that, they raise their glasses in tribute to their noble and fallen comrade Antok. Antok, whose legacy will endure through the weapons he forged and the hearts he touched. Turning to Gunnar, Leon inquires about the finished item. Gunnar nods confidently, assuring him that it is perfect. The blacksmith's divinity has bestowed its blessing, and even the sages concur, though they still need to infuse it with essence. Leon breathes a sigh of relief, recognizing that the preparations are finally complete. He feels a deep gratitude for all that the sages have done for them. With that thought in mind, he steps out of the tent to face a vast army awaiting his command. Alongside Walter and Anjak Pratasia, after exchanging greetings, Leon turns to Walter, his expression serious. "Are you certain about the demons marching toward us?" he asks. Walter nods firmly, his gaze steady. "Yes, they are on the move. They've confirmed the survivors of the demon of sloth at the Landolki Plains, the heathens of the beast god, and the corruption within the empire. The estimated enemy force stands at around 10 million, essentially an entire army." Leon realizes that the final battle is drawing near, and to secure victory, they must prepare diligently, for the demons will arrive soon. Countless soldiers are busy organizing battering rams in front of a massive wooden gate, bracing for any assault from the demon army. Meanwhile, Hari, Soo-hee, Jae-hyuk, and Chae-yoon are eager to help, but Leon firmly denies their request, instructing them to remain on standby. Their shock is palpable, yet his decision is rooted in logic. Unlike Leon, who embodies the past, Hari and her friends are the representatives of the present. If they were to fight inside the gate, death would be inevitable, and Leon couldn't bear to sacrifice them. Though he wishes for them to take on a different task, he sends them to the chamber of the first hunter, the goddess of the moon and purity, who also holds the title of second most powerful in the kingdom, being the sister-in-law of the king of Lionheart. Her name is Isabel. As Hari and her group enter, they are taken aback, their curiosity evident on their faces. Noticing their astonishment, Isabel explains that while there are many gods in the pantheon, one stands above the rest. The 7 gods are regarded as the most formidable, and despite her eyes being damaged from a previous attack, Isabel skillfully wields her magic. With a flick of her wrist, she casts a spell to unlock a chest. As the lid creaks open, she reveals an array of shields inside. The sea and its waves, the chaos of war and flames, the majesty of heaven and thunder. These elements have long been regarded as the fury of nature. Isabel reveals that while there are many gods, these are the ones they truly need. Hari stands in awe, her disbelief palpable as she gazes at the divine relics left behind by the former Grail knights and saints. Despite examining the relics, confusion lingers among them as they ponder Isabel's intentions. Finally, Isabel unveils the truth. They are to inherit these relics. However, they have yet to earn the relics' recognition as their true owners. Isabel believes that the future should rest in their hands, for the king is convinced they will endure this war at any cost. She is certain they will wield the relics more wisely than she could, especially as she faces her own impending demise. However, gaining recognition from the relics is a challenge they must face alone. Isabel then gestures toward Chan Soyeon, requesting a favor that her divine status allows her to fulfill. Once Chan Soyeon agrees, Isabel initiates the succession process. With that, everyone dives into their preparations. The soldiers gear up for battle while civilians offer prayers for those who will face the bloodshed. Knights and soldiers from across the continent begin to return, their resolve palpable. Just as everything reaches a fever pitch, the demon army encroaches upon their territory. Anjak Pratasia stands tall, honorably welcoming the sages of the woods. He announces that the extraction ritual has been successfully completed. The sages, visibly impressed, examine the item and conclude that Antok has indeed mastered the art of steel, fulfilling his duty with exceptional skill. Now it is their turn to fulfill theirs. Beatrice announces that she and Spinay will hold the front line for as long as possible, while Hari and her group make their move to seize the divine relics. Spinay instructs them to regroup at the designated rendezvous point once the mission is complete, promising to rejoin them after securing the grail infused with essence. Before they part ways, Beatrice affectionately pats Hari on the head, reminding her of their respective roles in this critical moment. Gunnar then turns to Antok, emphasizing that once their task is finished, the divinity must descend upon them to complete the ritual, as Leon is unable to fulfill that role while engaged on the battlefield. Thus, she must shoulder that burden. Anjak replies that, as the great saintess of light and justice, it is only natural for her to make sacrifices for a brighter future. Having devoted most of her life to the temple, she has immersed herself in reading and teaching the doctrines. Even after the great war against the demons erupted, her way of life remained unchanged, except now, her prayers are offered for the dead rather than the living. As she comforted the lost souls, a wave of sadness washed over her. She wished she could do more for the people than the knights could. Yet the small saintess, devoted to light and justice, found solace in her prayers for the king. Meanwhile, the castle braced itself for war, but the enemy forces appeared relentless, their army stretching endlessly beyond the horizon. The demons have erected a temple over the ashes, a cruel mockery of the fallen. Even the Lionheart Kingdom, once the bastion of guardianship, now stands with only its last fortress remaining. The enemy believe their long-range weapons pose no immediate threat, but suddenly an explosion erupts, claiming the lives of several of Leon's men. The energy radiating from the corpses reveals itself as poison, prompting the soldiers to act swiftly. More attacks are on the horizon, and the troops scramble to form a defensive line. Meanwhile, the priests begin their purification of the poison in the northeast. Standing atop the castle with Eren by his side, unleashes flames upon the advancing demons. "Be proud of your father," he urges Eren. His voice steady despite the chaos. He sacrificed himself bravely and returned to the banquet hall of the gods. As he surveys the battlefield, Leon reflects on the kingdom's final moments, realizing that the tales told by future generations will merely echo its tragic downfall. Overwhelmed by the weight of the situation, he bows his head in prayer to the goddess, pleading for assistance. He hopes that the soldiers, gripped by fear and sorrow, can carry on the legacy of the Lionheart. Around them, women soothe their crying children while young men fight valiantly to keep the spirit of the war alive. The knights, amidst the bloodshed, strive to instill hope for a brighter future. Leon, resolute in his mission, prepares to face the darkness head-on. Feeling the weight of his people's suffering, he calls out to the goddess for strength. In response, he senses her presence behind him, a comforting promise that she will stand by him until the end, empowering him to act as he wishes. Suddenly, a surge of unfamiliar energy courses through his body. Fueled by rage and determination, he drops his sword and begins slamming it into the ground, each strike resonating with his resolve. He chants the names of those who have stood by him from the very beginning, their spirits igniting his fight. Knight Eren, son of Antok, the legendary Grail Knight of Steel, stands resolute. He recalls Gildas, the war hero who vanquished the fearsome horned giant Galvaron, and the noble elf guardian of the Oak Forest. These are men of honor, warriors who fought tirelessly for their land. With conviction, Eren declares that such heroes would never tolerate the demon's mockery. They must rise against those who believe they have already won the war, because the battle is far from over. Not yet. Leon strikes his sword against the ground repeatedly, fueled by anger, rage, and deep agony, desperate to ignite that same fury within his people. He demands to know his identity, and the entire battlefield unites in a powerful chant, declaring him the half-god proxy of the Pantheon, the guardian of the Grail, and the king of Lionheart who vanquished Malice, the Lord of Chaos. Filled with unwavering resolve, Leon proclaims that victory is imminent, urging the soldiers to stand firm and not to fear or retreat. Their swords and shields will become mere firewood, and the battlefield will transform into a graveyard for the demons who foolishly believe they can overpower humanity. He rallies everyone to fight until the very end, regardless of the cost, regardless of their own lives, the lives of their companions, or even the fate of the king. His words ignite their souls, and chaos erupts on the battlefield as the final confrontation begins. Kalakale, at the helm of the demon army, challenges his foes, demanding their reverence while branding them as inferior creatures unworthy of his presence. He proclaims that the essence of evil predates divinity itself, vowing to show no mercy to any of them. With a swift motion, he conjures fire orbs brimming with sinister red energy, launching them toward his foes. Leon quickly signals to Roxley, who responds without hesitation, unleashing a powerful combination of skills: divine punishment, flames of war, and manifesting sun. Together, they counter the demonic orbs with precision. Leon urges Roxley to concentrate on the orbs that pose a threat to the Pantheon, and just like that, Roxley effortlessly obliterates them. The demons, fueled by their rage, resolved to scale the castle walls, convinced that victory lay just beyond their reach. But the armored soldiers stationed on the roof were ready for them. As the demons ascended, a hail of arrows rained down, thwarting their advance and keeping them at bay. Meanwhile, at the southern gates of the fortress city Pantheon, Gildas felt a growing sense of dread as he caught the acrid scent of meteor fragments. The realization struck him. These remnants were transforming the once vibrant land into a desolate wasteland. Restoring the city to its former glory would require an immense amount of time and effort. He hears the distant roar of chaos, realizing that the demons have breached the eastern gates. On the rooftop, the knights stand resolute, fiercely battling the encroaching horde. Meanwhile, Aaron faces off against the formidable demon of massacre and destruction, Doomgore. In this intense clash, the demon begins to understand that not all knights require the power of Grail warriors to be formidable. With unwavering determination, Aaron proclaims his intent to slay Doomgore, fully aware that Leon and Roxley are unable to assist him from their position. With a fierce resolve, he leaps into the air, launching himself toward the demon. Inside the castle, Hari and the others have finished identifying the relics. However, J-Hook remains troubled, doubting his ability to wield them. He contemplates giving up, convinced that this war isn't theirs to fight, and that only Spinay and the king will emerge unscathed. Confident after having already slain 3 lords, J-Hook believes victory is all but assured. Hari shares a sentiment, recalling how Leon has always emerged triumphant, having defeated countless demons in the past. Their paths crossed at the Black Gate, a clear omen that Leon would prevail in this battle as well. Yet suddenly, a thought strikes Hari. She suddenly realizes that the final Grail plan had been abandoned long ago. It all stemmed from their decision to approach the gate in search of the king's assistance. With 3 Grail Knight-ranked warriors already absent from the battle, doubt creeps into Hari's mind. Can victory still be achieved? Her gaze sharpens as it falls upon the robed figures nearby, and she commands them to remove their hoods. As they comply, an unsettling energy emanates from them, and one figure sneers at Hari, commending her keen perception. Sensing imminent danger, J-Hook unleashes his full divine power, but the cloaked figures swiftly counter, neutralizing his magic with ease. A chill runs down Hari and J-Hook's spines as they realize the gravity of their situation. The figures are closing in. One of the assailants introduces himself as Ki, the archdemon of pleasure. With a sinister grin, he lunges at Hari, aiming for her throat with deadly intent. J-Hook, ready to make the ultimate sacrifice, shoves her aside, fully aware that this could be his last moment. But just as the blade descends, Gillingham arrives, blocking the attack and saving both Hari and J-Hook from certain doom. To their relief, Isabel stands beside him, having been prepared for such threats thanks to Leon's foresight. Quay, who had expected Gillingham and Isabel to be at the front lines, is taken aback to see them here, defying all odds. The 2 of them smirk at him, proclaiming that they won't allow inferior evil beings like him to linger in their presence. Deep down, Isabel understands the challenge ahead, facing 3 formidable demons, and an archduke demon won't be easy. Yet, as a saint, she is resolute. She will never back down. Gillingham, however, urges Isabel to abandon her old life. In agreement, she swiftly casts a spell of divinity dissension. The statement about throwing away life leaves J-Hook and Hari puzzled, but Isabel quickly redirects their focus. She urges them to assist Han Suho and Cheyan Sujan, warning that demons have likely infiltrated the area and the Holy Grail is at risk. Without hesitation, they dash off to follow her orders. As they depart, Kay can't resist taunting Isabel, questioning her unusual condition and doubting their chances in battle. With a calm confidence, Isabel reassures him, "Don't worry, I can crush them with just one finger." At her words, Key's expression darkens, sensing the gravity of the situation. He demands they pay for their arrogance. Strange energy swirls around him, causing the ground to tremble beneath their feet. Meanwhile, Suho and Chejon find themselves overwhelmed, surrounded by a relentless horde of demons. The situation grows increasingly dire, and Soyeon, gasping for breath, realizes she's pushed herself to the brink. Lost in her thoughts, she barely notices the demon charging at her from the front. Just in time, Hari and J-Hook arrive on the scene. Without hesitation, Hari unleashes a devastating spell, Twist, engulfing the demon in flames so intense that it obliterates them instantly. For a fleeting moment, they believe the danger has passed, but the battle is far from over. More demons are on the horizon, and this one is a formidable great demon, accompanied by a horde of minions. He bellows for Hari's group to clear his path, but J-Hook understands the urgency. He must halt this creature until Spinay and the Queen arrive, or the situation will spiral out of control. Just as he prepares to unleash a powerful spell against the great demon, thick vines suddenly erupt from the ground, ensnaring all 4 of them and dragging them away. Panic momentarily grips their faces, but relief floods in as they realize it is the tree sage who has brought them here. Acting on the orders of the revered Saintess Anjek, with a grateful nod, she acknowledges their vigilance in guarding the chamber and declares that the extraction is complete. She explains that this holy grail contains the essence of the wisdom and knowledge of the forest sages. Harry feels the immense power radiating from it, recognizing it as more sacred than any relic she has ever encountered. Meanwhile, the great demon relentlessly pounds against the door, a stark reminder that time is running out. Anxiously, Hari turns to Anjak, asking what will happen to them once the Holy Grail is completed. With a reassuring smile, Anjak explains that the Holy Grail was once an abandoned plan. However, thanks to Leon's change of heart, they have arrived at this pivotal moment. This Holy Grail symbolizes that Leon still believes in a brighter future. Tears stream down Hari's face as she grapples with the weight of her emotions. She can't bear the thought of losing all these kind souls, yet chaos continues to unfold around her. Anjak steps in, offering solace. The future has been entrusted to you by the king, she reminds Hari gently. You must fulfill your duty. With that, she prays to the goddess of light for absolute justice. As her words resonate, she channels her magic into the Holy Grail. A brilliant beam erupts from the relic, enveloping the entire battlefield in its radiant glow. Once the Holy Grail is fully imbued with the goddess's blessings, Anjak hands it over to Hari. This immense power, once destined for a single individual, the King of Lionheart, now rests in her hands. However, when he caught even a faint glimmer of hope for the future, he swiftly altered his plan, choosing to pass it on to someone capable of carrying it forward. Just then, the gate swung open, and Spinay and Beatrice stepped through. Beatrice wasted no time, urgently ordering Hari to leave, while Spinay announced that the structure holding the place together had been destroyed, and that the building was on the verge of collapse. They must leave at once. Tears well up in Hari's eyes as a sudden realization washes over her. She truly has to go. Overcome with emotion, Hari vows to Anjak that she will never forget the sacrifices they made. As Hari's group departs, accompanied by Beatrice and Spinay, Anjak stumbles and falls into Gunrar's lap. In a gentle response, Gunrar transforms into a tree, cradling her as she finds peace in her final moments. Meanwhile, the building begins to crack and crumble around them. Outside, Isabel and Gillingham, having vanquished the demons and safeguarded the Holy Grail, gasp for breath on the main grounds. They have poured every ounce of their strength into this fight, and as the structure slowly collapses, a sense of fulfillment washes over them. They know they have accomplished their mission. The battle is drawing to a close, as the clash between the Lord of Wisdom and the Guardian of the Holy Grail reaches its climax. The battlefield lies in a tense lull, with demons having breached the walls. Walter turns to the king, questioning whether he truly wishes to press on with a fight that seems destined for defeat. However, Aaron's frustration boils over at Walter's doubts. Meanwhile, Leon maintains his composure as he explains to Walter that beyond these gates there are still people fighting. The knights have not given up yet. Walter, however, is seething with anger, struggling to understand the reasoning behind their persistence. Only the people are dying. Yet, Leon implores Walter to allow them to fight for their honor. For the good citizens Walter sought to protect, and for all those on this earth who still hold on to their sense of dignity, until their flames extinguish. The world is fated to end, just as foretold, and this battle is merely a repetition of history. However, it is not without meaning. Leon has chosen a different path, both for the people of Earth and for his future self. Even if they cannot escape their fate, they can still plant a seed of hope for the future. They resolve to open the main gates, with Leon determined that the world will remember their final stand of fight for honor, glory, and the legacy of Lionheart. With a fierce battle cry, they charge forward on horseback, cutting down every demon that dares to block their path. From a distance, Kalikale watches the chaos unfold, conjuring magic arrays in the air, desperately striving to restore balance to this evil era. But then, his attention shifts to the northern army, the Dragonia cavalry surging forward, led by none other than Karina. For their fathers and for Lionheart, they gallop onward, united against the looming threat of the demon army. Kalikali's fury intensifies, and he resolves to eliminate Karina first, preparing a magical array aimed at her. But just as he is about to strike, Leon bursts onto the scene, his form transformed by divine power, 9 majestic wings unfurling from his back. In an instant, he launches a fierce attack on Kalikale, swiftly ending his life. As the dust settles, Leon lands heavily on the ground, his weapon crashing down beside him. Overwhelmed by sorrow, he grapples with the haunting question of a life that seems destined to end at the whim of the goddess. The goddess inspires him, reminding him that he embodies the loyalty and faith of all those who fell in honor and glory. He is the knight destined to carry on their will, and he must press forward until the very end. As the demon monsters on the battlefield tremble in fear, they still dare to provoke Leon. A smirk crosses his face. Something within him has shifted. He no longer seeks just victory. He craves their shame and humiliation. The war he has waged alone for 200 years has finally begun. One by one, he dispatches these insignificant foes, driven by his destiny to conquer all injustice and trials. His fate is one of triumph. Meanwhile, Harry and her group have returned to Earth. Silence enveloped the room. Some wept softly while others were lost in memories of the sacrifices made. The king, patiently waiting on Earth, wore a serene smile. Meanwhile, Spinne sat quietly, watching the video recording of his final moments with Antok, a bittersweet reminder of their bond. After Hari and the others returned, not much had changed. Fortunately, Hari had regained her positive energy, while the other group members had matured a bit. The differences weren't monumental, but at least they were still growing. When Leon glimpsed the holy grail of the moon in the future, he was struck with awe. He hadn't anticipated that his inquiry to Beatrice about the seedling would lead him here. Yet, he recalled that Gunrar and the other sages of the forest had devised this intricate plan. It resembled an ark, designed to place everything in the hands of the being most likely to ensure survival and safeguard the future. As the world faced irreversible damage and teetered on the edge of collapse, a plan emerged to safeguard what remained. At the forefront of this effort was the Pantheon. More than just a symbol of faith, it served as a vital connection to the world itself. If the Pantheon were to fall, the power of the divinities would vanish, and paradise would be lost forever. Leon reveals that this was the reason the gods chose to evacuate to his lion heart. They could continue to exist because the lion heart generated divine power on its own. When the founding king received the Holy Grail, Ariana had harnessed all the world's light, along with the powers of the sun and lightning, to create it. This Holy Grail symbolized the very foundation of the kingdom and was crucial for appointing a Grail Knight. Now, Leon is merging the Holy Grails, transforming them into the ultimate Grail. The Holy Grail of the Moon was crafted to address the shortcomings of the other Grails, acting as a pivotal key to selecting the ultimate Grail based on specific needs. Its creation aims to gather diverse species and knowledge, paving the way for a new era of understanding and power. This has the potential to forge a new kingdom, but it hinges on whether Gonra's seedling can thrive. After some time, Leon hesitantly approaches Beatrice with a request. He wants to locate two individuals he believes are still alive, Balkanus and Karina. He didn't spot her in the God's paradise, and while he can't fulfill the role of a father just yet, he urgently needs Beatrice's help to find her. Beatrice reassures him that she will find a way. Leon expresses his gratitude, acknowledging that without her and Spinne, things wouldn't be as they are now. He then offers her a chance to wish for anything she desires, promising to grant it. A blush creeps across her cheeks as she playfully replies that she'll share her wish later. Meanwhile, in the office of the Korean president, frustration simmered as he reviewed the conditions for cooperation with the South Korean government. The open gates had ignited his anger. Despite this, the government had welcomed the emergence of the Pantheon Guild, finding it far easier to negotiate with Leon alone than to contend with the formidable 10-guild alliance. The guild's blessed crops had transformed into a highly valuable export, akin to a golden goose. Yet the president couldn't shake off a growing concern. Pantheon's influence and military power were expanding at an alarming rate. The repercussions of this rapid growth were becoming increasingly evident. During today's briefing, the media pressed for the president's thoughts on the goddess of light and justice, Ariana. When he failed to provide any direct answers, the comment section of the recorded video erupted with criticism from civilians. The president was losing his composure. Just then, one of his aides burst into the office, delivering an urgent message from the United Nations. It concerned the investigation team dispatched to examine the Pantheon's alleged violations of human rights. The former One Brilliance Palace now serves as a mining site for star iron. Amidst the laborers hard at work, Hari shares with Spinne that she received a call from the government. Noticing the worry etched on her face, Spinne reassures her, promising to investigate the matter. "Don't fret," he says gently. "We haven't done anything wrong." Meanwhile, Hari's gaze falls upon the laborers hunched over their tasks. As punishment for exceeding their allowance of sugar and salt water, they are now facing Spinne's grueling surf challenge. Each serf is toiling away, relying solely on their sheer determination. Among them is Barahir, a serf from the Pantheon Guild, who has been working tirelessly ever since his demotion. As Spinne announces that it's time for lunch for Group 214, Barahir lets out a sigh of relief. As they approach the lunch table, they discover a strange liquid waiting for them. Spinne quickly clarifies that it's just a mix of salt and sugar. Barahir, however, is in a panic, questioning how they're supposed to continue mining after drinking something so bizarre. He recalls a time when he could easily procure the meat of young humans to appease the demons, but those days are long gone. Having become a serf of Lionheart, he found his human rights stripped away. After finishing their meager lunch, Spinne ordered them to mine 20 kilograms of ore, a demand that brought tears to Barahor's eyes. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through his hand, causing him to halt his work, unable to bear the agony. What stings even more is the whip attack Spinne delivers to Barahur's back for stopping his work. Wincing in pain, Barahur immediately resumes his task, regretting the moment he got caught just a few days prior, which led to this torment. Lost in his anger, he inadvertently causes the wall to collapse. The incident quickly gained notoriety, making headlines in the local newspaper. 20 days have passed since that fateful event, and now the members of Hari's group gather around a table, uncertainty hanging in the air as they contemplate the Survivors' Human Rights Committee. One member voices concern, suggesting that serving people salt and sugar water is a bit excessive. Even the second generation of night trainees looks taken aback by the idea. Yet, Jae-hook dismisses their worries, arguing that it was merely a training exercise. He insists the real problem lies with the serfs, whom he labels as demon worshippers. Hari agrees, but the Survivors' Human Rights Committee is unlikely to support this statement. After all, the serfs are enduring terrible treatment. At Incheon International Airport, the United Nations Survivors Human Rights Committee arrives, greeted by Kong Huk, the president of the Korean Hunter Association. However, Louise, the committee's deputy director, remains wary. She suspects that the Korean government may be colluding with the Pantheon and is determined not to let Kang Hyuk manipulate her. Having safeguarded the rights of countless survivors from oppressive regimes and powerful nations, she is resolute that she won't allow the situation to spiral out of control. Hari arrives to escort them, and together they set off toward the autonomous district of Cruciateria. As per the plan, they are transported to their destination. Upon arrival, Louise surveys her surroundings and notices that the inhabitants here have seamlessly integrated with humans, blending in effortlessly without drawing any attention to themselves. As she gazes at the statue of Leon, she ponders its significance within their culture. Curiosity piqued, she turns to Hari and asks if they face any issues with fishermen, recalling that the Cruciatarians reside along the coast. Hari clarifies that MOPCOP's focus extends beyond fishing. They are heavily invested in shipbuilding and industrial ventures. Nevertheless, he assures her that they maintain a cooperative relationship with the Cruciatarians regarding fishing. Intrigued, Louise presses further, questioning them about their jobs and emphasizing that all their efforts are aimed at ensuring the survival of the protected people. Despite the intensity of her inquiries, Hari remains composed, providing insights into the ocean cleanup services operated by the government, which involve collecting sea debris and sustainable farming practices. Louise appears visibly relieved and begins to ask another question, but suddenly, a massive explosion erupts from the sea, sending shockwaves of fear through her. She quickly demands to know the source of the blast. Hari, maintaining his composure, explains that it could be the Cruciateria tribe's commandos engaging in training exercises. Louise is confused, prompting Hari to explain further. He reveals that over 3,000 Cruciatarians are warriors, and the king has commanded them to train in the waters. After conducting their investigation, the human rights team discovers that the locals are adapting remarkably well, skillfully leveraging their strengths and weaknesses to integrate seamlessly into their new environment. Everything appears to be in order. Yet Louise remains puzzled by the rumors surrounding someone known for their positive influence being abusive to their captives. She ultimately decides that these must be mere misunderstandings. Upon arriving at the Pantheon headquarters, Louise steps out, and immediately, the serfs are compelled to smile, insisting that they are not being forced into labor. Tears glisten in their eyes, but Louise has witnessed this despair countless times in places where human rights are but a distant dream. Louise Foster has dedicated her life to safeguarding these rights, steadfast in her principles as she strives to guide the world toward a brighter future, even if just a little at a time. Louise always found joy in bringing smiles to the faces of those who were struggling. However, her instincts told her something was amiss. The way these people smiled and spoke felt forced, lacking the warmth of genuine happiness. Determined to uncover the truth, she seized one of the serfs, demanding he confess if he was being coerced. The man, visibly miserable and clearly under duress, hesitated before lying, insisting he was there of his own accord. Louise was bewildered, unaware that by entering a contract with Tatar, the divinity of the sun in judgment, they had relinquished their wills. Just as her thoughts began to swirl, Spiny arrived, urging them to hurry along. It was lunchtime, Intrigued by their reactions, Louise insists on joining the workers for lunch, and Spiny reluctantly agrees. As they make their way to the dining hall, Spiny brandishes his whips, threatening the serfs to smile, and the poor souls can do little but force a grin out of sheer fear. Upon arriving at the town hall, Louise and her team are taken aback by the sumptuous feast and the lavish decorations that await them. She wonders why there's no meat on the table, yet it doesn't strike her as odd, given the nation's food culture. Harry patiently shows them how to enjoy the meal, and as soon as Louise takes her first bite, a wave of comfort washes over her, making her feel better than before. The legendary crops of Naju invigorate her spirit, possessing the remarkable ability to heal all manner of ailments. Yet, Louise is taken aback to witness such precious food being served to the employees. While a few decline the meal, the majority enjoy it, making the event a success. Later, Harry and Louise stroll together, engaging in conversation as they take in their surroundings. Meanwhile, the Human Rights Committee remains blissfully unaware that the bountiful crops they enjoy are, in fact, poison for the wicked. In a different setting, Dennis from the United Nations is seen reporting to a figure he reverently refers to as a great being, discussing the deployment of the Human Rights Committee to the Pantheon. Unbeknownst to them, the demon's subordinates have already infiltrated Earth, disguising themselves not only as ordinary civilians, but also as government officials and even members of the World Hunter Association. Their ultimate goal is the downfall of Earth, and their first step is to expand the rights of orcs. If the orcs were to become the dominant species, chaos would inevitably ensue. Dennis shares his thoughts with the Great Being, expressing his belief that the government is powerless to address the situation. The Great Being nods in agreement but urges Dennis to manipulate the media and escalate the conflict further. In response, he reveals a video of the Star Iron mining wall collapsing, resulting in countless casualties. Dennis watches in horror as the footage captures Leon commanding his men to load the serfs' ballistas. Overwhelmed by agony and rage, Dennis trembles at the sight before him. He yearns to punish Leon, the king of Lionhearts, yet hesitates, fearing the consequences of being discovered. The Great Being offers reassurance, reminding Dennis that the artifacts he provided will keep him safe during the inspection. But in an instant, everything takes a dramatic turn. In one moment, Dennis is resolute in his quest to punish the King of Lionhearts. In the next, chaos erupts, as all members of the Human Rights Survivors Committee are hanged from the pillars, with civilians fervently chanting for their execution by fire. Spina commands the knights to commence the trial. Without hesitation, the knights advance, flames flickering ominously as stakes are prepared in the heart of 21st century South Korea.